is when the conversation around smart solutions was there. Everybody was talking about smartphone, disrupting stuff, people getting more connected, the penetration was going high, and everyone was talking on how we're going to capitalize on that. We moved to 2018, innovation in the data age. The whole world was discussing about data and what data is doing and what can we do to capitalize on data. Data is a new oil, all these conversations. And again, nothing much was being discussed in Tanzania about data and the opportunities around data. In 2019, that is when we pushed the agenda for the fourth industrial revolution. I remember when I went to pitch the concept of fourth industrial revolution to some of my mentors, the BBC, born before computers. They were like, what are you smoking? We are not even in the third generation, third industrial revolution, and you're talking about fourth industrial revolution, Jeff. Are you serious? But again, when I talked about artificial intelligence, about big data, Internet of Things, machine taking over, they're like, oh, those are just movies. You watch too much movies, yeah? Terminator, Sarah Connor Chronicles. Those things doesn't happen in Africa. They'll take at least 100 years to happen. So, but we pushed, and I remember I have few champions who always trust my decisions, and it's always important to have few BBC on your back that trust what you do. So we had one of the graduate of Singularity University, Balozi Ame Mpungwe. We had the former COSTECH Director General, Dr. Hassan Mshinda. We had the late Professor Ben Ondulu. They all come in and then they supported us and they are pushing the agenda that 4IR is real. And we have to have this cross-generational dialogue on how digital transformation will impact our countries. Unfortunately, we are not here with Professor Ndulu. He has passed, but his ideals and his values still lives with us today. And then we went to 2020. As usual, we are planning for our big event. And then sometime around June, the government banned all big events because of COVID-19. Then we had to send emails to all the people that we're not going to do our event physically, but that didn't stop us. So we did the event virtually. And here we are today, Future Imagine, our most exciting current theme. So before I start my presentation, I'll play a video, and this video has some facts about the African future and what is happening now. And then after that video, I'll go to my presentation. There's some very interesting facts about the future of Africa. But the question is, are we seeing them as opportunities or challenges? So here we are in 2021. We are wrapping it up to 2022. And everything is moving at an exponential rate. If I ask you 2 years ago, half of the world population wangekuwa wamevaa kidude kinaitwa barakoa, there is no way ungekubaliana na mimi. And if someone from the 90s, labda alifariki akaamka leo, they might think the world has gone insane. Or maybe some weird fashion trend of the young people to cover their faces. But that's how fast things move. When we talk about technology, the future, digital transformation, and opportunities, people in Africa, most of the time, they think about robots and machines coming and taking over. So we need not to talk about this in our policies, in our strategies, because it's not an issue for now. We are not hurry in Africa. That's why our vision is Vision 2063, because we need enough time to prepare for everything that is coming. And my friend Julius Marema says, the reason we have Vision 2063 is because by the time we realize it, all those who design it will be dead. So it's imperative and extremely important for us to discuss the future. And this needs to be a cross-generation dialogue, whether we like it or not. Things are changing and are changing really fast. I was born and raised in Darcelam. Actually, I was born and raised in Kariakoo, very close to Sokoni Kariakoo and Msimbazi, where Simba was born. It's unfortunate. By the way, I'm a very diehard Simba fan, so I had a very bad evening yesterday. So, and Manchester too. Yeah. So, 15 of the fastest growing cities in the world are all in Africa. Most of the African cities are expected to attain what they call a mega city status in the next few years. It means these cities will have at least roughly 10 to 13 million people living in those cities. People in those cities will have to dress, will have to eat, will have to navigate. You can imagine how difficult it is to navigate in Dar es Salaam right now, and by 2030, it will be 12 million of us. Have you ever asked yourself how long it will take you from Goba to Posta when we are 12 million of us in this city? It will create challenges, but also it creates new opportunities. Things like platform economy, sharing economy, digital economy. These are the things that will happen at a faster rate. Some new potential unicorns will be formed. Potentially, a startup like Food Sasa might be one of the most valuable startups by then, because nobody will be willing to waste 3 hours to go to look for food. Potentially, a startup like Pakota Solution will offer easy access, waterless access for you to wash your car, and they save more than 10,000 liters of water per month. Might become the unicorn because the government will be looking for ways to protect the less amount of water we have. Perhaps because we'll be moving to gig economy, startups like Colpesa will be another unicorn because they will ensure a lawyer or a teacher can do remote consultation and get paid in real time. Perhaps we'll find a better use of our rooftops, because with the current trends, Mbeya and Ilinga cannot continue to feed us. It won't be possible. It won't be possible for us to continue to rely for food from the Southern Highland. The role of innovators and disruptors, not just tech disruptors, it will be very crucial. Startups that will move quick, and innovators and companies and entities and enterprises that will move quick into manufacturing, smart manufacturing, and the food industry, urban farming. Those will be industries of the future. And those are the next millionaires. And those are the people who are going to solve some of the most complex problems that our society are facing today. So instead ya juu ya magorofa yetu kuweka uchafu na mashine yaliharibika zamani ambayo hayatumiki, we should expect something like this to happen. But there's another interesting fact. Africa's current population expected to double by, I think, between 2050 to 2100. In the next 3 decades, we'll have the largest workforce in the world. In the next 3 decades, we'll have the largest mid-income earners compared to the rest of the world. The median age of an average African is 19.7 years old. So an average African will be young 20 years to come. Let me repeat that again. An average African, I'm very happy to see UNFPA is here, they deal with demographics, age demographics and population. An average African will be young 20 years to come. And this is the definition of young of Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan, our honorable president, because she said you are young up to 45. So it means, well, that is a good news, and we have a huge, this large workforce that can be adrenaline, pump and push things to move forward. But in turn, without proper strategies on how we're going to capitalize on it, it can be catastrophic. I think the age, average, the median age of Tanzania, you can Google that, it should be less than that, around 18, 17. Wow, I'm being told it's 17. So it's even younger. So how do we create opportunities to these young people? These tensions and discussions yes, okay. These tensions, frustrations, discussions that are happening on social media in the kizazi, which I called sasa sisi tutafanyaje, because that's how they send text. We will be struggling to catch up with their pressure. It is not by mistakes what happened with the Arab Spring, or what happened in Sudan, or what's happening in West Africa. This youth uprising in most of the urban Africa is not happening by mistake. It's a lack of opportunities. We need to create these opportunities. Actually, Minister of Finance of Nigeria, Orio Konjo, she says she's afraid African youth will turn into violent extremism in the next few years if we don't do anything meaningful to create opportunities for them, because it will turn into a situation of us against them. Yeah, so we are doing something. We are creating jobs. I was informed that the border economy is 219 billion Tanzanian shillings economy. Do you know that? The border, that is the border economy. So the motorbikes they import, the spare parts they use, the phone calls they make, the insurance they pay. So if one disruptor can capitalize on that and come with a product like Border Pesa for them to trade and do virtual currencies and transact within themselves, I was informed also in a day they do 200 to 300 million transactions, border drivers. So it's an economy. Is it a sustainable one? Can all Tanzanian youth become border drivers? I'll leave that for you to decide. Another interesting fact. So 12 million youth are getting into the job market in Africa every year. That is twice the size of Finland, 5.5. 12 million youth. There's no official number for Tanzania, so I'll be very careful not to mention any figure. So the key question is, how do we create a way not to cover this crisis and rub it and, but to strategically find a way to tackle it by creating those opportunities and those solutions. Oh, this will be the results. Remember the End SARS movement in Nigeria? For any small issue, like what mwalimu used to say, akipatikana tu mwendazimu mwenye kibiriti akakidondosha then moto utawaka. For any small issue, African youth ran to the road because of the pressure and frustration. Millions of youth in Lagos and Abuja went to the road with this campaign of End SARS. It turns into a bloodbath, into a bloodshed, and catastrophic to the Nigerian government. But if you do scientific research and investigation, it wasn't an issue of End SARS now. It was a bigger issue of lack of opportunity, lack of employment, living in some of most extremely difficult life situations. And also the big brother is watching. We are very excited about the algorithm and the artificial intelligence and the digital transformation and everything else that is happening. But the most powerful states right now, they are not even countries. They're the big nines: Facebook, the Google, the Twitter, the Alibaba. No wonder China is trying to fix that good guy, because they control something very powerful. They control the data. They control what we consume. They control our behavior. They control our perception. They know how many Tanzanians are frustrated after loss of Simba yesterday. Based on what you tweet, what you comment, what you engage on, they can even shape the narrative. They can tell you to go to the road and protest. They can tell you to stay in the room. They can tell you vote for Trump. They can say good luck, Jonathan is bad. That's the power they have. One mistake Instagram did during the End SARS movement, one post, which has thousands of engagement, made people to go to the street for something which was not actually there. One post. One tweet post of Tiwa Savage saying Nigerians are being butchered in South Africa. It reciprocated worse, in a worse way, in Lagos and Abuja. The likes of Cambridge Analytica, they are shaping the narrative, and at some point of time, they'll be able to put presidents in Africa. If you don't solve our problem, we'll solve our own problems. I can guarantee you, there's a kid right now in Tandale or junction near Sandali or somewhere in Makangalawe, living this life and making a lot of money. More than an average public employee. They're either doing Forex, they do content creation, they outsource their programming skills, or they just insult people on Twitter. But they're making money. The key issue is, while we want to capitalize an informal economy, how do we make the most of this? Because they are there. In Gerezani, Darcelam, Uakari in Nairobi, and Xiongbe in China, is the fact kwamba sisi wale tumeona wanachafua mji, so we didn't have a strategy to capitalize on them. na wenzetu wameona kwamba okay, these are adding value, so let's create a maker space and labs to capitalize on their skills so that we can manufacture more than US. It's just an issue of making decision. It's not a technology issue, it's a leadership issue. And that's why we're having this leadership roundtable, and everyone in this room is a leader. Because we need those strategies and plans. It's not an issue of nuts and bolts. It's an issue of who is driving the car. Before I close, the internet economy, this is going to Google and IFC, the African internet economy is expected to hit 180 billion USD in the next 2 or 3 years. So we choose. We want to capitalize on this. We want to remain the spectators. Or we want this to finish us at our own peril, because it can also do that. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward for an exciting conversation today. Celine, back to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Jumanne Mtambalike. If you remember correctly, he has worked with Buni Hub for 4 years. Okay. 10 years in the ecosystem and working with tech startups. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Mr. Jumanne Mtambalike. There are 3 kinds of people. There are those who don't know that something has happened. Okay. And there are those who sit there and watch things as they're happening. And then there are those who make things happen. So if I'm hearing correctly, summing up your discussion is that if we take ownership of the problems and look for solutions and take ownership and find the solutions ourselves, that's where we're going to make a difference. You're speaking about youth. Look at you, you're a youth, speaking about solving problems around youth. And this is why we have this audience here today, the right people in the right time. It's enough, it's about time we stop speaking about these things and start doing. But then when we get the right people in the room to speak about them, that is where we can have the right strategies. So Jumanne, we appreciate the time and we thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we are asking you to share your experience socially with Ag Future Reimagined, as you can see it on the screen. The R is kind of fancy, no double R's for the future and reimagined. Please remember to tag Sahara Sparks and Sahara Ventures. We are very honored to have our partners, UNDP, and we're going to continue to learn of the rest as the day goes on. Could we have some nice music, please?
Turn 2. So Jocelyn loves protocols. She literally requested me to invite Mr. Joseph Manirakiza, country representative of Funguo. And Joseph is a good friend. I know I'm making a joke, but he's an amazing person. For those who don't know, Jose is a colleague. We've been working together for the past 6-7 years now, Jose. Since the early days. Actually, when he was starting his career in our ecosystem, he was still working with Buni. Is it so? Oh, it was David. Yeah. So I'm very happy, humbled, and honored to invite Joseph, but also to recognize Funguo project as well as UNDP as our main partner for this day today. Can we have a huge round of applause for them? I don't want to define funguo so that I don't mess up things this morning. So I'll straight go to Joseph and welcome him to give his keynote, as well as he'll explain what funguo is. Karibu, Joseph.
Thanks, Jumane. I hope the mic is working, right? Right. Thanks, Jumane. Thanks, Jocelyn, for the good work that you're doing of observing protocols. I'm not good at protocols, so I'm glad to be speaking to the chosen ones. We have to ignore all the protocol salutations. So, Dr. Nungu, you have to forgive me for that. You know that I don't do protocols, right? So, first of all, let me congratulate Sahara Ventures for yet another well-organized Sahara Sparks event for the 6th time now, right? It's come a long way, and I'm glad to be having this conversation at the moment. So I'm going to mention on behalf of the UNDP Res Rep, Madam Christine. She couldn't make it because she's engaged in another event. But of course, if I make any mistakes, I'm fully responsible for those. Don't put them on her. So, well, it's a good opportunity for UNDP to be partner to this event, because definitely it's addressing something that as a UN agency, development agency, we are very, we have close to our heart. So it's doing this through the Funguo program, which is a new innovation program that I'm going to be explaining later. And I think you might be imagining, asking yourself why we are doing this as UNDP. As I said, it's a development agency. And as Jumane has shown you, the development sector is changing quite tremendously. And since UNDP is supporting the government of Tanzania to be able to navigate through all these challenges and be able to achieve aspirations of becoming a higher income country, hopefully by 2025 or somewhere around there. So I think it's a high time that we actually have this conversation, have these kind of platforms to be able to talk about some of the issues that we are facing as far as development is concerned. We cannot overstate the need for digital solutions and the need of that innovation is actually playing in catalyzing development. And I think as we have seen some of the facts and some of the kind of challenges, choosing to stay the way we are doing, or maybe just to keep on doing things the way we have been doing them, is not actually a choice. That would be suicide. So we have to ask ourselves, how are we trying to shape this future that we are imagining now to actually be a reality, not just a nightmare that we don't want even to remember tomorrow? So that's actually a huge question that everyone should be asking ourselves, whether it's public sector, whether it's private sector, whether it's developing agencies like UNDP and others. So we have to think of what we're actually doing to be able to make this future reimagined a reality. So I think the choice of this theme was really timely, because time is not on our hands anymore. Looking at the number of young people who are on the street, those who are coming out of universities and no longer have a job to wake up to. So we can either capitalize on them and create opportunities for them, or just wait for them to become a threat to us. And sometimes I always think, whenever we think about innovation technology, we kind of refer to the young people, which I kind of oppose, because those young people are not in the boardrooms making decisions. The old people are in the boardroom making decisions for the young people, for the future of young people that they are not going to be able to see. So basically, we never talk about innovation technology. I think we should actually be addressing these policymakers who are actually making decisions. Because if we are talking about fourth industrial revolution, we are talking about blockchain, we are talking about artificial intelligence, and the likes of Dr. Nungu don't get to understand those terminologies and are not able to make policies to be able to push those things, so nothing's going to happen. And if nothing happens, then we can only imagine what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's why I think whenever you talk about innovation technology, you should actually be addressing all of them. The young people take advantage of the opportunity that are presenting themselves, but also, well, I don't want to call them the old people, but also the policymakers who are in the boardroom to make those decisions, to be able to understand the kind of situation they're trying to address at the moment. Because there's no way you are going to be able to solve the problems of 21st century by applying the policies that were enacted in 1970s. It's not going to work. And this is not just for the government. I think this is also for the private sector. It's also for the development agencies. We also need to move in tandem with the kind of advancement in technology that we are seeing right now. And well, I think we have all seen that if you look at the existing reports, the Global Innovation Index, and I look at the ranking and everything, the most innovative economies are also happen to be the economies that are actually done so in terms of Human Development Index. They are the same countries that are doing so well in terms of GDP per capita. So we can now kind of underline the role of innovation technology as far as development is concerned. So if we can actually see that innovation technology is doing that to other countries, why not us? Why can't we not create an environment which is going to be able to make innovation flourish, and at the same time now get a lot of startups coming up that are going to grow into big companies and stuff. So that's why I think looking at some of the programs initiatives that have been implemented in the country, for our side, we can talk about Tanzania Ict that was implemented through COSTECH. We could talk about HDIF that also was in partnership with COSTECH. And now we are talking about Funguo Innovation Program, which is coming to take over HDIF. And we can only hope that we can achieve something out of those, not just implementing programs for the sake of it, but at least focus on issues that actually matter. So we understand, I think we have already seen how the pandemic, COVID-19, has actually redefined the way we live and the way we work. But we have also seen, like, if we do not prepare, like invest in technology so well and also mainstream some of the technology advancement in what we do, how vulnerable we can actually become in the face of only one pandemic. I think you saw what happened like 3 months when the kids were at home. We're not prepared at all. Parents were not prepared to cope with the kids. But the government also didn't know what to do with the kids. Like, how can you have the whole nation not working, not learning for 3 months? Others have gone through a whole year. So we have to start thinking now, like, what can we do in face of another, God forbid, another pandemic? Technology is the answer if we kind of invest in this kind of technology advancement to actually keep the nation going. If we, God forbid, something else happens. So that's one of the big lessons we can actually learn from COVID. And this is the time to start now thinking about that kind of situation or circumstances. How are we preparing? How are we shaping the future we want? So we shouldn't end by just reimagining. We should actually think about how can we make that reimagined future a reality. And this is the kind of platform that we would like to start engaging that. And as UNDP, the way we have been doing the old program, we are going to continue kind of supporting these kind of platforms, because we basically believe that all these solutions can be found through partnerships, through collaborations, but also through dialogues. But we have to go a bit further, that we don't just end up in these conferences just talking about things, but going ahead and actually take some initiatives. So before I conclude, I had promised that I'm going to talk about Funguo, and I had said that Funguo program has taken over from HDIF that have been implemented for the past 7 or almost close to 8 years, since 2013, and it was concluded last year. But later we started imagining, okay, what's going to happen? Like the kind of work that had been happening during that time, what's going to happen to it? So that's how partners got together. We had such discussions, and then Funguo was conceived. And UNDP, I call it incubation, because the ultimate aim is not just to do another program. The ultimate aim is to implement the program, but later on lead to a facility which is going to exist beyond the program, because that's the only way we can actually achieve sustainability within the innovation ecosystem. So that's what we're going to be working on. And we're glad that there are some partners that have joined us. Initially, UNDP is going to be funding it, but also the European Union and the UK government through UK Aid. They are the initial funders, but we are talking to others so that they can actually be able to join that. 3 key pillars we're going to be focusing on. generally innovation financing, because through a lot of discussion we'll be having, that's one of the challenge. And I'm glad to see the CEO of ABSA. So seeing that the banks are also joining this movement is actually great. We have seen NMB launching their tech sandbox, which is also great for the fintech. We are seeing all the other actors which are joining the movement. So I think having this kind of critical mass pushing for this agenda is going to get us somewhere. So we're going to be collaborating with all of them to see whether we can focus on some of the startups that are coming up, give them that kind of push, which they need to go to the next level of unlocking investment. So that's what Fungo is going to be focusing on as far as innovation financing is concerned, but also linking them now to these potential investors. We are not going to be doing that alone, but that's how we're going to actually working with a partner that we are still talking to at the moment. And the second part is the innovation service delivery that's how we have decided to call it. There are so many innovation enablers in the country, innovation hubs doing a great job, incubators, accelerators, but there are also a lot of legal consultants also who are supporting the startups. So we would like to work with them to make sure at least they do deliver the service that are relevant to what the startups need. There is quite a number of innovation hubs in the country, but we also like to see like equivalent or even more innovation startups coming out of those innovation hubs. What's missing? That's the link we want to work on, to partner with them and then see how we can be able to either strengthen them, but also work together to reach that level. But the last part, the last pillar is what is even more important, the enabling environment. We keep on talking about policies, laws, and everything that are not helping the innovation startups. And well, I think in my view, we have to keep on talking about that, but we also have to think of doing something about it. We do blame academic institutions of not providing the right environment for innovators or students to actually be able to do something. So what can we do? Engage academic institutions to tell them exactly what the ecosystem needs, so they can actually come up with programs that are going to respond to this challenge. We talk about policymakers who are clinging to policies that don't work. Maybe they don't know any better. So how can we work with them to make sure that actually they know what needs to be done? That's why bringing them in discussion like this is actually one of the important things that we have been doing. And we have Innovation Week that has been happening for the past 7 years. Sahara Sparks that has been around. We've been supporting the Tanzania Annual ICT Conference, where all these discussions do happen. We have Data Tamasha, which is coming up. So there's those kind of platforms that bring together all the players to be able to discuss these things. And then after that, initiates now to go through to look at what can be done. We talk about the youth. Now, recently there was Tanzania Youth Digital Summit that also bring together the players to be able to discuss these kind of things. But on top of that, we're going to be working with the partners like the PSF, TSA, the other umbrella organizations who are doing the work of pushing these kind of agendas. So we are looking at ways of how can we actually support and amplify this kind of work which is being done, to make sure that we end up getting policies that actually work for the innovation ecosystem, that work for the startups. Without doing that, whatever we do, no matter how much money we bring in the country, nothing is going to happen, because that key that supports all this. So let me just finish by reiterating what I've just said, that all of us, we need just to go back and reflect on how we can mainstream innovation technology in whatever we do. If you're in government, private sector, or development agency, how can we even digitalize, start by even digitizing some of our processes to make things and processes more efficient for those that we work with? How can we push for the right policies, and how can we make sure at least we get financing coming to the country to support all these great innovations that are coming up? So as on behalf of UNDP, I can only say that we are committed to supporting these movements and kind of catalyzing the collaboration with other agencies to be able to push the agenda forward. So asanteni sana kwa kusikiliza. I hope I can end there. Asante sana.
Okay. Yeah, so Let me make sure I follow the protocols. Always one button has to be closed. Yeah. So I'm going to introduce Firas. Don't worry, I'm not going to read your bio. Yeah, so Firas Ahmad is a group CEO and co-founder of Azam Pay, and I'll stop there. But he's an exciting guy. I've been following his post on LinkedIn, and he has a way of looking at things somewhere between what actually the market want, what the consumers think, and how technology can actually be able to touch people at the completely grassroots level. You know, as techies, we have a certain way of thinking. You can always just sit somewhere, create solution, and then give it people to consume it. But it looks at things at a very different way. But also, that's not the only thing it does. Is another guy who actually posts stuff related to the future, digital transformation, trends in technology. And I usually search for those people, especially in Tanzania, whenever I'm in LinkedIn. Okay, so who has actually written anything related to fourth industrial revolution? And a couple of guys usually pops up, and his name always comes up. So without wasting time, I'd like to welcome you, Firas, so that you can offer your keynote. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. Thanks for not reading my bio. I really appreciate that. Habari za asubuhi. I'm learning Swahili, so that's as much as I know so far. Thank you very much to Jumane and to Sahara Sparks for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here with you today. And I want to talk, actually, Jumane's presentation was very, very interesting to me because he talked about the population of Africa in 2100. Okay, so that's less than 80 years. So basically, maybe not your children, but at least your grandchildren would see that time. Okay. Does anybody know the population of Darcelam? Projected population of Darcelam in 2100. Does anybody have any idea what that is? Okay, nobody knows. I just told you this morning, so you don't count. In 2100, the projected population of Darcelam will be 75 million. Darcelam will be the third largest city in the world, and Tanzania will be the 10th largest country in the world by population. Okay, so whatever we see in Darcelam right now will not be here in 80 years. It'll be a mega city. It will be a metropolis, right? So to get to, right now, anybody who's flying from Europe or United States or wherever to get to Darcelam, they fly through Dubai, they fly through Istanbul, they fly through Doha. In 2100, most likely to get to Dubai, you'll be flying through Darcelam. Darcelam will be an economic, financial center of the world with 75 million people, okay? And that's in a lifetime that your grandchildren will most likely experience. So the amount of change, to imagine that amount of change in such a short period of time, it's happened in other places in the world. If you look at Dubai is itself an example. 30 years ago, there was nothing there. You look at countries like Korea or other parts of the world, these types of transformations happen in relatively short periods of time. So it's not that it's impossible, but the question is, how do you take advantage of that massive amount of growth, that potential that could create Darcelam as a future global center of economic activity, okay? So what's exciting about Tanzania? I mean, I know this is about Africa in general, sub-Saharan Africa, and but maybe we can focus a little bit on Tanzania today. What's exciting about Tanzania for me, as was mentioned before, young population, growing economy. But I work in the payment space. And so one of the things that's exciting to me about payments in Tanzania is it has a very interesting ecosystem developing around mobile payments. So let's go to mobile payments to start with. So I think mobile money, which was established by M-Pesa in Kenya so many years ago, 20 years ago, I think it might be one of the most impressive financial innovations of the last 20 or 30 years. And the reason I say that is because of the following, okay? In Africa, essentially payments were all made in cash. When you have cash payments, you have informal economic activity. In order to formalize economic activity, you must create, in the modern ecosystem, you must create digital payments. So mobile money innovated digital payments for use cases in Africa that aren't relevant in other parts of the world. So we don't have a lot of credit card transactions. We don't have a lot of ACH debit transactions, but we do have massive amounts of mobile money transactions. What we've done is created a parallel payment rail in Africa and other parts of the world as well that allows for transactions that are meaningful to people that are living in those areas, mass market transactions, okay? Now, for sure, mobile money was a tremendous innovation, but at the same time, we need to look at what are the next stages of evolution of mobile money? What are the next stages of evolution of payments? And how do we get to a situation where we can start to see the types of value-added services being built upon those platforms that prepare a country like Tanzania or a city like Darcelam for that type of a future, okay? So the way I like to think about these situations is around two primary points of focus. One is transparency and the other is efficiency, okay? Why are transparency and efficiency important for the formalization of economies? So if you look at informal economies, if you look at cash economies, value is typically generated by lack of transparency. So if you take a farmer in a remote village and he's trying to get his products to a market in the city, he might be able to call someone and get a price of that product that they could sell. It could be cassava, it could be something else. But maybe he doesn't have visibility on the transport of that product. And so there's a broker that says, I know how to get a truck to pick up your cassava to take it to the town. But that broker is essentially playing on the fact that the farmer doesn't know how to get the truck. There's intransparency, right? He knows how to get the truck. He knows how to call the driver. The farmer does not. That information is what he's generating value from. He's not generating value from anything other than the fact that he knows something that somebody else doesn't know, okay? This is how informal economies work. If you're delivering products in a city, if you're doing whatever, if you have personal relationships with other people, it gives you an advantage. But formal economies only work when those advantages are removed, when information becomes transparent. And as a result, you create efficiency. So a great example of this is eBay, okay? eBay, everybody knows eBay. eBay is the American company that allows people to place their products online. Could be your own used products, could be new products, and you're allowed to bid on those, okay? It's essentially a perfect competition marketplace where people who are, you know, they're rated well, they typically can charge higher. People who are rated less, charge lower. And what it means is if I buy something on eBay, okay, let's say I buy a used iPhone on eBay and I receive that iPhone and it doesn't look like the iPhone that I saw in the picture, I can send it back. There's a guarantee within eBay that allows me to either get my money refunded or send it back, okay? So these types of marketplaces are critical to creating formal economies that allow actors who don't know each other to begin transacting. And that is where we're at in a place like Tanzania, where we do have digital payment systems that are allowing for money to be turned from fiat cash into digital, allows less friction, but at the same time, we need to build on top of those platforms in order to achieve the kind of formalization required to start to see the change we want to see. So this goes back to transparency, which is creating visibility for everyone in the economy to see what is going on, and then efficiency, which allows us to drive down the cost of those transactions, right? So going back to the example of the farmer who is sitting in a village outside of the city trying to transport products to the market is facing efficiency problems because of lack of transparency. He cannot see when the truck is coming, he cannot contact the truck himself. As a result, it creates inefficiencies, and then he ends up losing out on the value of that transaction. So the amount of money that he can make off of that cassava is less because there's no transparency and there's no efficiency in that transaction. Okay, so the foundation, what I see as the foundation of these modern economic systems is really focused around the payments area. Okay, and I might be biased because I'm a payments person, but I really see that as the core. All right, and in order for so let me segment payments and financial institutions into a couple of layers so we can understand where we need to have the interventions. So if you think about payments in general, movement of money, financial systems, I see it as three layers. There's a banking layer, which is kind of the foundation. There's a payments layer, which adds connectivity to that banking layer. And then there's a fintech layer, which then creates the services on top of the payment systems, okay? The banking layer is like hardware, okay? And banks typically focus on managing liquidity and lending capital, all right? The payments layer is creating connectivity across those banking and mobile money institutions and allowing people to connect and make payments. And that's kind of like the connectivity layer, right? So if you have a hardware layer, then you need to connect hardware. So you have the connectivity layer. And then the fintech layer is where I see the value added services. So how do you solve actual problems for actual people who are facing difficulty with friction or transaction issues in the market? And that's the fintech layer. Now, it's not that a bank cannot be a payments company, cannot be a fintech company. A bank can do that. A payments company can be a bank, can be a fintech company. And a fintech company can now we see be a bank or a payments company. So any company can play in all those three layers. But the reason I divide them up that way is because the only way you're going to see innovation in a place like Tanzania is when the banking layer and the payments layer become open, okay? Unless there is an ability for a company, a startup, any entity to connect to those banking and payment layers in an open and transparent way, there is no way you can create innovation, because those are, the banking and the payments layer are extremely expensive to set up. High capital expenditure. There's no way you can expect small startups to be able to build banking and payment layers by themselves. What you can expect them to do is go solve problems that people are facing, because the startups are very good at seeing what people are doing and trying to find a better way to do it, okay? But they're not capable of building those layers. Once those layers are established, they must be opened, okay? So I would argue, and I've argued this publicly, I would argue that USSD, access to USSD payments, is essentially a public utility. It has become a public utility. Just like if you open a business and you need access to electricity, you need access to water so you can run that business. No business can operate without access to electricity. Many businesses cannot operate without access to water. It's basically it's something that you can go out and petition for and receive that access. Now, it might not be totally reliable, but at the same time, you have that access. I would argue that given the nature of the economy, given the nature of the way that we transact now and the way that people prefer to transact, the access to that USSD menu on the feature phone is itself a public utility. It allows people to connect to consumers in the way that the consumer wants to connect to them, okay? And there's no way that you can innovate in Tanzania unless that access is made unfettered, okay? Now, certainly there's a cost to that access. No one gets electricity for free. No one gets water for free. So no one should get USSD access for free, right? But that is not that, as I see it as a utility, it should not be a restricted or a difficult process. Okay, and the more that we can make these networks open, so the announcement was made by NMB this week that they've issued some 400 open APIs. I think that's a fantastic step forward. I think to the extent that banks have the resources to do these things, they should. But the platforms on which we must build innovation must be open platforms. Okay. So no one company can do it all right? Not any individual company can create all the solutions to all the problems that we're facing, all right? And my argument is that by opening the ecosystem, we allow the startups to come in and start to create value given the resources that they do have, okay? Okay, so the payment space is interesting because you compete and you cooperate, okay? So there's no company that can, certainly when you open up systems, you're gonna see competition, right? And competition is required to create value for the consumer. Now, the way I see competition happening in Tanzania right now, and many parts of East Africa, is competition is driven by silos, okay? Capture the customer and keep them in your silo and keep them from leaving your silo, okay? As much as you can capture them and have them use your service, you can generate value. Actually, what competition should be is value on competition to the consumer. So the system should be open, and your competition for achieving the value from that customer should be based on whether your service to them is useful to them. Let them choose, okay? Cooperate where you can cooperate and compete on value to the consumer. That's a different type of paradigm than what I see in the system right now, which is capture the consumer within your network or within your system and try and extract value from them, however they might be producing value right now. And that's kind of a recipe for not going anywhere. And that's why I think we have seen limited innovation in Tanzania over the last 10, 15 years around the payment space. Of course, that mobile money innovation was a tremendous one, but I'm not seeing the level of activity that I think could happen. Even if you look around the world, that activity is already happening. It's nothing that you can point to and say it's not there. It certainly is there. So I'll give you one example of innovation that we have done. So we run this company called Azam Pay. One of the things that we do is we run a B2B transaction platform called Sarafu. Okay, Sarafu, for those of you who don't know, you have retail shops in Darcelam, and they procure their services through an app called Sarafu. We warehouse those products. So this typically FMCG products like water, juice, soda, flour, things like that. They purchase it on the app. They pay digitally through a mobile money account, and then we deliver it to their doorstep. Okay, so I think it's unique in the sense that other people are doing that. There's another company called Soko Watch here that's doing that. There's other companies that are looking at it. But one thing that we do that's unique is that we ensure the transaction is digital. So we don't allow anyone to pay with cash, right? And there's a reason for that, okay? So when we started Sarafu, we had only a few customers, and they requested that we open a call center, okay? So they liked the fact that we had an app and they could see the price of the product, and they liked the prices that we were giving them, but they didn't want to order on the app. They said, no, we don't want to use this app. We want a call center. Let us call in and place the order, because that was their habituated process. That's how they normally purchase their products, okay? And they usually purchase between the time of 10 a.m. and say 3 p.m., okay? That was their daily habit. And so we discussed this as a team, and some people said, yeah, we should do this call center. It'll help people order. And ultimately we decided no. Why did we decide no? Customers asking, they want to order by the phone. We said no. Why? Because we want to scale the product. Okay, I know there's no way I can scale a call center across the whole country, right? And that's not how e-commerce works in general. E-commerce doesn't work on call centers. You have to, again, transparency and efficiency. How do you make the process more efficient? So we refused. Instead, what we did is we went and trained those customers how to use the smartphone, okay? Initially, what they would do is they would, instead of using the smartphone, they would call the sales agent and ask him to place the order on the smartphone for them, okay? So they, again, refused to use the smartphone. Right? Even though they had one, they didn't want to use it, okay? But we kept being persistent and kept training. And so an interesting thing happened. The first year, most of our transactions were happening in the same time frame, between 10 and 3 p.m., 90% of the transactions, okay? And it created problems for us, because when you're delivering products in the middle of the day in Darcelam, you know that traffic is an issue. So everyone was getting their transactions late. Over time, what happened was people started to realize they can order at night because they don't have to call anyone. So soon we started to see transactions shifting after 8, after 9 p.m. Now, a year later, those same customers who refused to use the smartphone are now placing the majority of their orders after 9 p.m. Okay, so their behavior has changed. We have actually created a behavior change amongst our customers based on the technology, the one that they did not want to adopt. And if we had listened to them, we would have started a call center and they would have continued that same behavior they had before. So what that does is, going back to efficiency, transparency, and efficiency, we give them access to the prices and the products at whatever time they want, and we encourage them to order later in the day. And as a result, we're more efficient in how we can deliver those products, because they order at night and they get it when they want it, which is the first thing in the morning. Okay, so there takes, of course, it takes an enabling environment, which I discussed before, which is I think we need an open ecosystem, right? But at the same time, it also takes vision. It cannot be that you pick a problem, you find an immediate solution, and whatever works in that moment is what you'll go with. You have to see, well, where are we headed? What do we need to do? Where do we need to get to? And you have to stick to that vision. And behavior change is a very difficult thing to do in informal markets, but it is possible. Now, I'll end with the following, okay? I was born in the United States. I went to university in Washington, D.C., and I graduated in the year 1999, to date myself, okay? I remember in that time, this was when AOL was the largest technology company in the world. Some of you may not even know what AOL is, but it was at that time the biggest tech company in the world. It was selling dial-up modem services. That's how it became the biggest tech company in the world, okay? And at that time, AOL was there, and there were a couple other companies. Most of them have gone out of business. And I remember going to a job fair, okay? And they were giving presentations. And I remember one presentation was from a guy who stood up at the back, and he said, listen, if you're, 20-something years old, whatever you do right now, if you have any opportunity to start something, start it right now. This was in 1999. He said, I don't care what it is, think of something, and if you're in a position to start it, okay? And he was saying that because he understood what was happening, right? This was 1999. Google hadn't been formed. Facebook hadn't been formed. This was before the iPhone. This was before a lot of what essentially runs the world today had even happened. But 1999 was, in fact, that dot-com crash was the beginning of the internet technology age. And he knew that, okay? I think that time is right now in Africa, all right? Whatever you see happening in the last 2-3 years with these, unicorns and valuations, billion-dollar valuations, I think is simply the tip of an iceberg that's been submerged for many, many years. Okay, the payments layer is in fact not the most exciting layer of what we're going to be working on in Africa. There's so many opportunities to build on top of it. And that's where most of the value will be that we see for consumers. So we're really at the edge. So my encouragement to anyone who's watching this, who's in a position, and I'm saying you, I in fact wasn't even in a position at that time. I didn't get to a position to do something until later. But keep it in your mind, because the opportunities are limitless. And I see the ecosystem starting to come together. And the real point I wanted to drive home today is, as much as we can promote an open ecosystem in these countries like Tanzania, East Africa, and Sub-Saharan Africa, that is the key, because that's when that will give the opportunity to that person who's 20 years old, who wants to start something, to actually start it. You have to lower the barriers to entry, right? Barriers to entry should not be the business model. The business model should be value to the consumer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Firas. You can have your seat. So you guys look very serious. It's not a political rally, it's Sahara Sparks event. We need a bit of energy. Why so serious? Yeah, so again, I know it's a lot to digest. Mambo magumu kweli kweli haya, but it is what it is. That's the future. The future is never easy. I'm very excited. Again, I need to recognize the presence of some few people. The board chair of Tanzania Startup Association is here. It's my boss because I'm the board member of TSA. Karibu sana. Again, nimeambiwa na mtu wa strategy nitafukuzwa kazi. Naomba ni recognize uwepo wa mkurugenzi mkuu wa Tume ya Taifa ya Sayansi na Teknolojia, Dr. Amos Nungu. Naomba nitambue uwepo wa mwakilishi au wakilishi wa UNFPA, mama yetu, Mama Felista Bwana. Na tuna event na UNFPA kesho Hayati. Tutakuwa tunazungumzia mambo haya ya vijana na teknolojia na future, lakini kwenye engo ya afya ya uzazi, sexual reproductive health and the future of youth. Kwa hiyo you are welcome to attend. If you want to attend, there's a lady called Winfrida. She's somewhere behind there. You can reach out to her. Lakini vivyo napenda nitambue uwepo wa partners wetu wengine UNCDF, dada Anet, karibu sana. Napenda nitambue uwepo wa CEO wa APSA, brother Abdi, karibu sana. Uwepo wa CEO wa Tanzania Startup Association, bwana Zaoro Mwaji. CEO partner wetu mwingine wa Startup Rizio, Ajay, please say hi. Uwepo wa Africa Blockchain Center first, Irene, and then Adanian Lab. Please say hi, Irene. And then my good friend, John Kamara from Adanian Labs. Yeah, and so we have a lot of partners this week. Wengine wamejificha nyuma, sasa ndio wataona ubaya kukaa nyuma. Lakini ningependa kutambua uwepo wa ndugu zetu wa Data Labs. Engineer Omari, naomba usalimie kidogo. Wananipa wakati mgumu kwa tafuta. But we also, tomorrow we're going to publish some academic papers on future of work and digital skills in Tanzania. We are partnering with Tumaini University. So Dr. Tweve, on behalf of the group, please say hi. Is Dr. Tweve around? Yeah. Kwa hiyo kesho tutakuwa vile tuna event hiyo. Lakini tutakuwa na event jioni because this is a digital generation. So we'll have conversation on Twitter Space and Clubhouse about the digital skills and future of work in Tanzania. So Baraka Mafole, where are you? Please say hi. Yeah. So Baraka is making a lot of money in Fiverr, Upwork, all these platforms. So tomorrow he'll be explaining to other youth how is he doing that. So it's going to be a very exciting event tomorrow. He's also going to teach me how to make money. He might be broke then. Yeah. So it's going to be a very exciting week. But also we have another event on media and innovation with DW Academy and Tanzania Media Foundation. I don't know if they're here. So the rest of the week is going to be very exciting. But on Friday, we're also going to partner with SCC Capital. My brother Darcelam was, please, can you say hi? We'll be talking about investment opportunities in Tanzania with DOB Equity and some other investors, specifically for startups, on how they can attract funds. So it's going to be a very exciting week. You can follow all the agenda in the week from our website, and I'm very excited to have you here. So without due notice, because we are really lining behind time, I would like to introduce, Issa, can you introduce our fireside chat? So that I call the two gentlemen on stage. I'm just going to ask them 3 questions each, and then we move to the next activity. The reason I loved this video because it has a very good sauti. So I say sauti. Then it looks like just a slide. For some reason our sauti guy has disappeared. He was reimagining the future. So let's play it again. Maybe people will be disappearing by then. Asante sana. Sasa bila kupoteza muda ningependa nimkaribishe mkurugenzi mkuu wa Costech Dr. Amos Nungu. Naomba ukaribie, utawasalimia watu pale kisha kaa nitakupatia microphone. Karibu sana. Nashukuru sana kuwepo wako hapa. Lakini ningemwomba na Firas, please welcome on stage for a quick fireside chat based on what we've been speaking and seeing from the morning. And yeah, you can sit anywhere. I don't know, just saying, what's the protocol?
All is good.
Oh, all is good. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so since Firas introduced himself, then I'll start with Daktari. Doctor, please introduce yourself and at least say what Costech does, for those who don't know what Costech does.
Yes, so now you can hear me. My name is Amos Nungu, the General of the Tanzania Commission for Science and Technology. COSTECH is a government entity established in 1986. We are responsible for coordinating and promoting science, technology, and innovation in Tanzania. And as we have heard, I mean, my name Tambarike, our hero today, was part of COSTECH and Boone Hub. So, as I said, we do promotion and coordination, but also part of the promotion, we do funding. We provide funding to support research and then now innovation. And the funding usually comes from the government as well as partners. Asante.
It's very difficult word during the COVID age, but we're going to share the microphone. Yeah, so again, you know what FIRAS does, so I'll jump straight into it. Data, facts, figures, story that we've seen in the morning apps right now. You guys are both reader. You're a reader in the private sector. You're running an enterprise, and Darcelam Mkurugenzi is a leader from public institutions. They're setting strategies and policies. What is the role of enterprises in all that is happening? What should we expect them to do to prepare for the future?
Okay. What is our role, enterprise? I think what I touched on in the discussion, which is, I think enterprise needs to focus on innovation. I think enterprise, to the extent that enterprises are in a position to address the pain points that consumers are facing, I think we need to focus on those. I also think that enterprise in general needs to, like I said, it goes back to competition and cooperation. You cooperate in order to open the ecosystem, to create value for consumers, and then you compete based on how you can provide that value. So I think it comes down really to that. That's my sense.
Great. Dr. back to you. We've seen all it from the morning up to right now. So what do you think? First, your general perception from what you've seen, but also what do you think is the role of the government in all this?
So what I've seen, I mean, it goes down to cooperation and the collaborations, because the government, it has a role to put down the conducive environment for all this to happen. And that's what we've been doing. But now coming back to innovation, which is disruptive, sometimes we have the rules, the road, the regulations, but the innovation, some of them, they are just coming up. They find we don't have those environment in place. So through innovation, I mean, collaboration and cooperation, then we smooth the environment for the innovation to flourish. That's why, to me, the key is collaboration and cooperation.
Again, one of the most complex things is to bring these things into context, into our own language, into our own way of doing things, so that they make sense to our people without leaving anyone behind. There's that perception in Africa that it's a future things are more of the top class, soft issues, and they're not touching the layer at the bottom, especially grassroots communities, to people to where it most matter the most. What is your perception on this? And if that is the case, how do we ensure this transformation and what is happening to actually impacting everyone?
My response to that is, I think there are initiatives that are reaching the mass market. I think there are others that could. In terms of what we can do to make sure that we are focusing on that, I think you need to go back to the pain points. I mean, you need to look at what are the actual problems. So for example, if we take, for example, the cash economy, right? In a place like Tanzania, still probably 90% of transactions are in cash. So cash has its own value. it's transparent, it's anonymous, it doesn't require a network, it doesn't fail, it's commonly understood, it's very quick to transact. So those are all values of cash. Now, if you want to reach the mass market, you have to understand, why are they not using mobile money at those point of sale transactions? And the information is there. There's no reason, there's no question about it. The question is, what are you doing to actually solve those pain points, right? So I think it's really incumbent upon the enterprises to go into the market, try to understand what are the reasons for that, or what are the incentives they can provide that would drive adoption, okay? And then build according to those realities. I think the worst thing to do is create technology that is looking for a problem, right? And we see that a lot, and most of those businesses fail. So actually, businesses are not technology or non-technology businesses, they should be solution businesses. What are you solving? And even if you were to look at interviews of Jeff Bezos back in the late 90s, he would say, we're not a technology company. We're just trying to get people products when they want them, okay? And he's using technology to do that. So I think the framing of it should be around the solution, to identification of the problem and then the solution, and then the technology should be the enabler of it.
Wow, thank you so much. Back to you, Dr. Test 1, 2. Back to you, Dr. Nungu. And so we understand things are happening. There was conversation around National Innovation Sandbox, digital economy blueprint, visiting of the HTI policy, some few laws are coming in the pipeline. So the government has been active. We even had our Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan saying she's going to pay more attention into tech hubs and startups and encouraging the government to do that. So what should be our expectation in the next few years, 3 to 4 years? What is coming from the post-tech side, but also from the government side? What pushing us to this issue and reimagining the future agenda?
As you have put it, I mean, Her Excellence has already declared that, technology should be, in the forefront, especially, we're expecting to provide jobs to at least 8 million youth. And technology should be, the forefront for doing that one. And you see, we have the new ministry, specifically for ICT, because one of the things is you want to have the access, because if we are rolling out, new technologies, new innovations, but the rural, how are they benefiting? How are they be part of these new, innovations? So the ICT ministry is specifically now rolling out the national broadband. That's to have that access, connecting the unconnected now, but also, as I said, cooperation and the collaborations that, as the Phyllis put it, they had a solution, but they have to work on mind change for the people to be able to use or to adapt the technology. So it is the same. The government can put in the conducive environment, but then are we seeing the same picture? That's what I said. Everybody has to play a role, because you have seen, we have started, COSTECH and the City Commission was pushing to have the sandbox, and TCRA 3 months ago, they enabled to provide that conducive environment, that any innovator who wants services to test their innovations, the services which are available at the TCRA, if they have an endorsement from COSTECH, then they will have a specified period for the testing time. Of course, it was not announced in the news, but TCRA started it. Today we have NMB coming up that, I mean, we are opening the environment. And 3 weeks ago, we had a discussion and a meeting and a work, basically, with the ICT Commission, trying to put down some sort of a framework, trying to ask all the service providers that can you open up your platforms because you are the service providers. So these youngsters, they have innovations, but some of them, they need, I mean, to test their solutions before you start charging them or restricting them or, I mean, giving them the license and whatever. So it is a good move, but as I said, it is a concerted effort because if TCRA has opened it, NMB has done, but now I would like to see APSA here, they're doing the same because sometimes, as I see it, the innovators, if they test a product and it is working with your service, then you are the one who are going to benefit more because the customers will be connected now to your service. Yeah, so that's why I urge everybody, I mean, to see the same thing the government is seeing, but also we are open to be, I mean, educated sometimes because maybe the technology is moving faster than us because usually always the regulations and the policies, they go not at par with the speed of change. So sometimes having the dialogue, for example, we're having a dialogue with the Tanzania Startup Association on how to kind of moderate the environment where we don't have the policies yet. Yeah, so we are open and engaging. By the way, I think it was UNDP representative who noted that we had 2 successful programs before. We have Tanzania ICT, which resulted into Buni Innovation Hub. Those days there was only Buni and Kinu. So now we have transformed Buni into a hub of hubs because through Buni, many hubs have evolved and you can find 80% of those champions in those hubs, they were a product of Buni. The same with the DTBI. So we are kind of evolving as well, but sometimes we can't evolve to the same speed as the private sector is moving. That's why we're always open to discuss, to engage, and see how can we make the environment even better. Yeah, for the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So because of time, Firas, what's your parting words?
Parting words might be around thinking about what it takes to move beyond what we're used to, how to imagine something that's maybe not there in front of you right now. I think the hardest thing for business to do is to, I mean, incremental change is fairly straightforward. You know, you add a service on top of the service that you're already providing. It's not a hard thing, right? Because you don't have to do a lot of work. It's just simply a tweak, right? But fundamental changes are much more difficult, right? Because then you have to really assess, okay, is this going to eat into my existing revenue? Am I going to cannibalize some of these customers? But we know that that future is there. So I think if you just take a look around the world, you can see where Tanzania or East or Sub-Saharan Africa is headed. So I think it's going to take some courage on the part of the enterprises to attempt to move in that direction. That might be difficult to do so given where they're making money right now.
Thank you. Dr. Nungu, any parting words?
Yeah, any parting words is it, I mean, to encourage the partners in the ecosystem to engage the government. Sometimes we might take time to respond because we have to balance, because on partly we are protecting for the consumers, it is our duty, but engage. That is my parting words, because we are listening and we want to reimagine the future together, because also it is our role to provide that conducive environment, also to compete in that global market. As we said, I mean, 2100 years, 75 million people, we have to be ready. Yeah. So please engage.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, so without wasting time, I think Yeah, so I was confirming with my protocol lady. Yeah, so it's John's time. I'm not going to say what he does or who is he, but it's an exciting guy. The first time we met in Geneva, it was a AI for Good conference, and he was pitching about artificial intelligence in Africa in a very weird place. So everyone was looking at him, okay, AI in Africa, okay, but he's a very exciting guy. So John, please come and give us your wise words. Karibu sana. By the way, I like your outfit.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is John Kamara, and I'm just a regular guy, like you said. I'd like to ask a question. Who knows what time we're living in a minute? Anyone, just what time are we living in at the minute? Yes, sir. We're living in the Stone Age. Anybody else know what time we're living in? One more person, just what time are we living in? Because it will help you shape the conversation you'll have. What time are we living in? Times have changed, Abdi. Thank you. Okay, I would like to define it as the most exciting time I've ever seen in this continent. I don't know, if you can't feel it, then you must leave. That is my favorite tagline. This is the most exciting time for a young person. And all of us are young because until you die, your mind is consistently young. So forget about the relevant. It's what you make of it. I see Mama here, she's sitting. And she's thinking about technology. Okay, and I see a 20-year-old sitting there. What is the difference? It's all in your mind. Your mind is how old you are. So Africa is on an upgrade. And the upgrade is happening in front of you. So look at the guy next to you and say, the upgrade is happening in front of me.
Upgrade.
You will tell this story. I am not kidding you. You will tell this story years to come about this upgrade. It excites me. Everywhere I go around Africa and I talk about this upgrade. Tanzania is in an upgrade. And the upgrade is driven by technology. And as I said, the solutions are there. Technology is just an enabler. So I'm talking about the future technology. What are future technologies? Machine learning, blockchain, IoT, great stuff. But the future really is in the mind of everybody here, the government, the private sector, the young people, the bankers, this guy standing here. The future is in the mind. And when we talk about blockchain, I just want to talk about two very simple things, just of time. What is blockchain and how does it affect social change, impact change? What is machine learning? When we first met, they had AI for Good in Geneva, and they'd been doing it to support Africa. And there was no Black person who'd ever spoken. So I spoke in front of 6,000 people telling them about AI in Africa. And they were like, wow, AI. Yes. Because why? We produce data nonstop. Nonstop. All blockchain is, when you think about blockchain, let's demystify it for a little bit. Think about a savings group. All of you in the savings group, right? Somebody's in the savings group. Vic Obers, I learned that word. Everybody's in the savings group somehow. And a bunch of people come together. And what do? They trust each other. And each person verifies the other person to say yes. And every time they do something, the transaction is verified by everybody else. And nobody decides that this is not right or wrong. And at the end of the day, what happens? They move to the next level. So all it is just a bunch of technologies coming together and all of us verifying that information and then making it transparent, right? And increasing the value and the speeds of those transactions. So either you are talking about agriculture, you're talking about land, you're talking about financial services. We are actually, there's a speech I watched once when he talked about, blockchain technology. When you look at the Nigerian ecosystem of apprentice work, It's actually, we do all these things regularly. It's just that now we're just adding a layer of technology around it, around the informal things that we've built, those informal trust protocols that we have built. We're just adding technology to it. So that way it doesn't become too difficult for people to understand. That's all it is. So it's not some alien foreign technology about, oh, blockchain. No, we're actually doing it. We're just moving this protocol. One computer verifies another, so that we say that nobody else can say, this is not true. That's all. So if somebody doesn't say, Abdi, that's not your land. No. All of us have said it's Abdi's land. So nobody can come and take it the next day. That's it. So when you have these systems, machine learning, here we'll talk about AI. The first thing you want to talk about before you talk about machine learning, you talk about the data that you actually collect. So in this place, what is happening? What is happening here? Anyone? We're creating data nonstop. That's all. We're creating data. I'm speaking, it's information, it's data. Hopefully somebody's able to collect it very well. And then train a small computer to say, hey, you know, can you make sure this can be done better the next time? Then you have machine learning. But it starts from the data collection first. So when you look at all this technology and say, okay, how do I demystify and create adoption for these technologies? One of the most important things that I learned growing up in Ireland basically was how governments and the private sector, and there were some really super smart young people, where you have a lot of them here in Tanzania, come together to say, you know what, we will drive an innovative society underpinned by one very simple thing, the will. That's all it is. The will. We can talk from here to next year to the you know, whatever happens, we can keep having these great conversations. If the will to change is not there, if the will to change from the government is not there, yes, we can write great policies. We can write research documents. We can form hubs. Okay, great. But if the will by one person is not there, it doesn't take a million people, just one guy. He says, okay, I am willing, like him, saying, I am willing to make sure that this change is going to happen. Just one. Somebody in the private sector, like him, say, I am willing to make sure my bank is going to make sure this change happens. And a bunch of young people who come together to support that. And then all the other enabling partners, all the UN bodies, UNCDF, UNDP, okay, stop giving us donations. If you want us to adopt things, question us to build commercially viable solutions, not social enterprise solutions anymore. Because for how many years, 40 years now, we're still here. And we're about to turn into smart cities, and there's nothing smart about our cities. Change the way you think about how you even fund us. Fund the startups. And for the bank, don't ask him how much profits you've made on day one. Ask him, can your business scale? Is it scalable? And a small story, I was in Amsterdam, I was in The Hague, and having a conversation with some VC friends of mine. And this is a true story. And he says to me, John, I saw your presentation. That was when I first moved from Ireland. And he said, I saw your presentation, and it was very much about what you're going to do in Kenya. I'm like, yeah, 40 million people, XYZ. So yeah, I said, you Africans though. Like, what do you mean you Africans? He said, I'm gonna show you another presentation by another guy from the US who's coming to Africa. Like, show me the presentation. It's like 1.3 billion people, borderless Africa, I am going in there. Because you guys think like borders. It's like, I'm from Tanzania, I'm from Kenya, I'm from Nigeria. But this is a continent of 1.3 billion people. So for you to scale a business, you must even think regionally. How do I go from Tanzania to Kenya How do I go from Tanzania to Uganda? Maybe my business doesn't work in Tanzania on day one, but it actually works in Kenya because they're more ready-made market. Because I am thinking about a borderless Africa. That is how I harness the opportunity. So when he showed me that presentation, I'm like, wow, okay, I'm gonna have to drop my presentation here and change. So when you talk about adoption, adoption is driven by people and ecosystems that are created. Without that, the farmer that we're trying to solve a problem for, the Mamalisha we're trying to solve a problem for, you give a perfect example. They will always do things the way they know it. So when you say, oh, how will the Mamalisha adopt blockchain? She has no interest in knowing about blockchain. It's you who build the solution and say, you're gonna have to transform because this is the value for you first. This is the value for you. How do you want governments to change? Most guys don't, they don't understand what you're talking about. Yes, you sit in great meetings with them, but they don't understand what you're saying. So at the end of the day, you must come with value. Say, you know what, government, if we do this, this is how much more money you're gonna earn. At the end of the day, when you look at, and one of the things that drives anything is the ability to create capacity in a smart technology era is one of the biggest downfalls that we have in this continent. And I'll tell you the reason why I say so. We talk about machine learning, we talk about blockchain, we talk about IoT, all these things. Point to 50 AI engineers in Tanzania for me. 50, okay, no, that's too much. 30, 25. Like, okay, 15. The point is we don't invest in capacity development. And when I mean capacity development, I'm not about training. Training is a process, it's not an outcome. And stop with this training stuff. We're training people. It doesn't do anything. What is the outcome? We would like to create jobs, smart jobs. And when we do that, we can sit here and earn foreign direct investments, which means the economy scales. That means a young person, as Jumani showed, is earning $2,000. The ripple effect on the Mamalisha changes her life completely. The ripple effect of training with a purpose, of saying, Afsa, we're gonna train 50 AI engineers, but we're gonna work on a project with you while we're training these people. So if you get to employ 20 of them, that means you can build new solutions and you don't have to outsource it. It stays here in Tanzania. Building the economy, an ecosystem, to build an ecosystem, you must understand every possible part of that ecosystem needs addressing. And smart technologies, the future technically is now where you're standing. We're talking about Africa getting to how many, 75 million people in one country. Well, if all of them do not understand urbanization of housing, and you can't build smart protocols around climate change, from here, not waiting for the UN to build it, people will still be living in slums all over. But what we have that they don't have in Europe or in America is the opportunity of non-legacy. We don't have legacy. Same way the mobile phone came, same way M-Pesa came, same way mobile money came and transformed. We shouldn't stop at just mobile money. Again, going back to, we shouldn't just stop because we do, now we should take that on. I have a ton of smart young people. If you look at, I call it HTML India, back in the days. Whoever remembered, if you wanted to build a website, what did you do? Any website, what did you do? You went to India, build the website, they ship it to you. But they were in India, but you didn't think, oh, these guys are in India. You just thought they could build the solution. They exported technology and the economy scaled. So if you don't build capacity here, but capacity driven within an ecosystem of an outcome, which means the bank, the funders, the government, the startups, the people, we all come together to say, when we're training these people, there is real value that's going to happen. Then when you talk about investment, we've been crying for African millionaires to participate, not just in buying real estate, to participate in investing in these startups. Don't wait till later, because the unicornization of African startups is happening. And one day you just sit there waiting, going like, well, I should have invested in it. Well, you can't buy me anymore, because as a startup, I can go from 0 to 5 years and I will buy everything else you own. It's the reality. But if you don't invest in that, the money still leaves and goes somewhere else. Those people who will invest in us. Those people who invest in us will take the money. Because if I invested by European VCs, when the time comes, I will need to pay them back. That's the theory. It's as simple as that if you don't understand the investment well. And that's also part of innovation. How do we innovate the money? Money is just an asset value. It's not the end goal. Wealth creation for African young people is the end goal. Transforming a digital transformation of economies, which means the farmer in the village, as small companies are collecting the data, as a farmer agri is collecting the data from those small farmers in the village and providing financing for them. What is the external value that we can build on top of that? Those are the things that would drive. And the opportunity of this exciting time is a lot of our young people are thinking consistently outside the box, because we have so many interesting problems to solve. So that's one. But the other part of innovation is deep tech, R&D. You know, I always say, if you don't build IPs, again, mobile money was an IP that came from Africa, because so many people around the world still don't understand how that works. So when you do projects and you get a development team somewhere in the US and ask them to do USSD stuff, they'll look at you and go like, what are you talking about? We can. It's an IP that we own. We just haven't learned how to commercialize that IP so well. So imagine R&D, where we don't really invest money in research and development. When you invest money in research and development and you're able to build companies that create IPs that we can sell to the rest of the world, that is when we start talking about industrial transformation. And COVID has taught us a big lesson. We're complaining to the rest of the world. We don't have enough vaccine. Well, we have so many smart people. We have so many research centers. We have so many biotech centers. Did we ever invest in building or creating this type of solutions ourselves? These things happen. They're all around us. So for me, the fourth industrial revolution that we're talking about and the age of smart technology, there's no future. Sorry, Dramani. We must remove the word future. Now, reimagine now and teleport yourself into the future from now. Open that gateway. Go from the future into the now every single day. Don't wait. There's no future out there. The future is this minute that you live in. The future is a lot of young, smart people, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Egypt, who are transforming. Why can't the young people in Tanzania be the same part of the transformation? What is going to drive economic change in this country is the young people. So until you accept that and bring them into the room to have those conversations, to be part of that conversation, to also lead the conversation, you must be willing to step back and let them lead the conversation. Because the VC will not give you money, give it to a young person. So how do we create this? So for us, what we're doing at the Adanian lab, we're setting up our lab here. So we don't talk too much anymore. We will do what we're gonna do. We're a venture studio. We want to build 300 companies across Africa. So we're coming to Tanzania to build the first 10 startups that we will turn into unicorns, and we will fund them ourselves. And we'll take them to create jobs. We will train 500 AI engineers in this country. And we'll start by training 100 blockchain developers, and I can tell you how much they will earn here by sitting here in Tanzania, because we don't want them to leave. They don't need to go anywhere. They don't need to go to Europe. They need to stay here. Here. And those partnerships are what is going to drive the change. So for me, the bottom line of all this, let us build commercially viable, sustainable businesses. Let us use smart technology to leverage the infrastructure that we don't have, that we can rebuild. So let's stop worrying about infrastructure. Infrastructure. What is infrastructure? These are legacy things. The opportunity has allowed us, as we were discussing, to build new things. Somebody built something on day one. So why don't we build on day two where they stopped? Nothing stops us. Future technologies are here to stay. Future technologies are all around us. We're all doing these things. It's just how do we purpose it? And to end, intentionality. Intentional about everything you do. You don't leave it to chances. Maybe something will happen. Yeah, if we're having a meeting, let us be very intentional. It's like, you're a banker. When you have a meeting, you're intentional. This is what I want to get out of it. This, exactly, intentional. So that from day one, when we have these things, we assign ourselves a clear purpose of why and how smart technologies will change the way we adopt information across this continent. I'm really excited to be in Tanzania, and I'm going to be here for a very long time, and look forward to working with all of you. And thanks again, Jumani. Thank you.
Woo! And that was the African Sun for you. Asante sana, Mr. Kamara, for the brilliant presentation. And thank you for reminding us that the future is in our minds. To the young and the old, to the juniors and the seniors, we all have it in our hands. Thank you very much. A huge round of applause for the founder of Adanian Labs. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience and excitement and for following up closely. I see some of the tweets that you're sharing, and I see you following in closely. Thank you very much. Again, this is Sahara Sparks 2021. It's a week-long series of events, and today we've just begun with the Leadership Roundtable discussion. Now, just to piggyback on what Mr. Kamara has said, we all have to be intentional, and we have to make intentional efforts to make sure that we improve and make the most of the improvements that are coming with technology. How can we ensure that post-COVID era and the technology that is around us is positively impacting the community and the grassroots community and the economy at large, right? So I want you to look at your neighbor and be, hey, you need to improve. And then tap yourself here, say, hey, I need to improve. I need to improve. Like Jumana said, we have the right people in the room and we all have a part to play. So we're almost finishing, and I would love to tell you that we are really going in for a very exciting panel discussion. And I'm just gonna list in the name of these panelists. So just take your seats, be there. I'll tell you when to come in, and stay set. We have Miss Faith Pella, who is the head of Mili Contigo and the founding board member from TSA. Karibu sana. She's going to be moderating the session. Then I'm gonna call you on stage, so chill. And then we're gonna have another discussant who will be part of the panel discussion. He's the co-founder and CEO of Startup Rosu. I hope I'm saying it right. Rosu, right? Raju. Oh, that's good. And he is Ajay Rama. We're gonna have him and we'll hear it from him. We also have the CEO. It's very honorable to have you, from Absa Bank, and he'll also be part of this panel discussion. We're gonna have another third panelist, Miss Annette. It's such an honor, from UNCDF, and she'll also explain a lot of details in the same panel discussion. And within the same panel, we're gonna have Dr. Ntimi Mtwawa from Tudako University. Sounds heavy? Are you guys set for this? So I'm gonna ask the studio to play for us a short video. And now to the panel discussants. Now you pay attention closely to this video, because the moderator is gonna ask you one question, like one pickup line that you got from the video. So please enjoy. Asante, asante sana. Come on. That video. Remember to share your experience with the hashtag. Yeah, thanks for the energy, Jumani, and thanks for working closely with the protocol things. That was really good. Please welcome on board with your brilliant discussants. Karibuni sana.
Good morning. All protocols observed. I'm honored to be here. I'm excited actually. My name is Faith Pella. I usually call myself a tech and innovative enthusiast because I love technology, and I think that's what makes my life going every day. I'm excited to be sitting here with all of you. I believe we're going to have a very exciting discussion. So just to start, I have a couple of questions for each and every one of you. And to start, the topic that we'll be discussing is on adopting future technologies and innovation for social and economic transformation. So my first question will go to, let me start with the ladies first. Yes. Oh, great. So, Miss Annette, so my first question will be based on what we've watched and all the discussion that have been going on since morning. So what do you think? Is it possible to lead in technological innovation and anticipate the needs and experiences of the future with a positive social and economic impact? This as coming from UNCDPF. I believe you're so much engaged in policy frameworks and guidelines to really promote technological innovation. So what do you think about us taking a lead in technological innovation?
Hello. I guess I'm good enough. Yes, as introduced, my name is Annette Kasebele. I am a policy advisor at UNCDF. And thank you for the question. And in response to that question, I think we do believe as UNCDF on the power of digital and technology to transform lives. And this is why our strategy is really looking at how we support different economies in countries that we work as they adopt digital innovation or they transform their economy into the digital. And we do believe there is great power in it for providing essentially opportunities for young people. Particularly, we see opportunities in how you could digitize some of the SMEs. We believe in a lot of these markets, small businesses are engine of the economy, and digitizing these type of businesses could also bring additional opportunities and additional employment to people. So we are really looking to engage, and this is why even for Tanzania in particular, we have been engaging with different stakeholders, particularly in the financial sector, because historically UNCDF has been focusing more on how to include people into the digital system to be able to transact. I remember, I think there was a certain speaker, I think Firas, who had kind of like highlighted how payments can be foundational for digital transaction. And we do believe in that. And that's why most of our work has been historically around that. And for Tanzania, we are looking at the fintech ecosystem and how do we facilitate fintech growth within the country, looking at how do we support them to navigate the legal and regulatory framework. How do we support this partnership with existing or incumbent players, so the banks and MNOs, as well as innovation in general, because we do believe that the future of works is really highly on technology, and how do we get young people to get into that space to sort of like avoid the situation of jobless economic growth. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Annette. Just to add to that, so how far do you think as a country we have been able to achieve?
For Tanzania, we have achieved so much, I would say. I mean, again, I'll draw examples in the sector that I'm familiar with, which is the financial sector. I think all of us have seen how mobile money have transformed our lives. Even if you don't, I think in any given day, one of us is engaging on digital transaction. It has made it much, much easier, because before then probably would have wasted a lot of time trying to do a transaction. If I needed to send something, let's say to Abdi or to anybody outside of Dar, there will be a lot of time wastage that goes into it. But now this particular innovation has improved efficiency on how we run our day-to-day things. So we see the potential for, like, could we imagine other sectors that could have gone through a similar transformation? This is an example in financial sector, but we could also see it in education, for instance. We could see it in health, and how this can improve productivity within the country. And I think with growth in productivities, we are seeing a replication of it in how it transforms the economy.
Thank you so much, Anit, for your answer. I would like to go to Dr. Ntimi. Thank you. So my second question would be, what are the latest trends and innovative strategies to take advantage of the opportunities that digital disruption is creating to our social and economic environment?
Thank you. I'm Dr. Ntimi Mtawa, come from Tumaini University, Darcelam College. I am a higher education researcher.
Yes.
So kind of you nailed the question spot on. I think one of the issues that perhaps since morning I was trying to think about, and I felt like it never really came out strongly, the issue of skills. If you want to be innovative, you want to harness or tap into emerging technologies to transform society, transform individual life, you have to have skills. And I think if we don't pay attention to that, to those skills needed, then we may be, technology could actually work against the transformation we're talking about. And so how do we do that? And I like since morning we were talking about the partnership, and who are these key sector involved? Who are these key stakeholders? How do we get them? How do we know them? Do we understand what are they doing? What are their expectations? And how do we manage those differences, those expectations? How do we manage those tension among those key stakeholders? So I think we need to be moving into that discussion in terms of how do we come together to be really able to develop, to engage in skill development, but also to engage in, especially for youth, educated and not educated. How do we get those skills cultivated into them? So for me, that's number one issue. But number two is, it's a question I've been asking myself. These emerging technologies are coming to us. We can't run away from them. Now, are we going to be to jump into this bandwagon of praising them, or are we going to be part of contributor to innovating our own as well? And how do we do that? And I think that's where also research institutions, education institutions come into play. Investment into that, and I'm happy that the COSTECH director is here. How much are we putting into research? How much are we putting into innovation? Is it enough? Can you take us to that level we want to go? So I think those are strategies that we need to begin to not only talk about, but also act upon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ntimi. Just a follow-up question from your contribution. Do you think our education system currently is really positioning itself? Because from Dr. Kamara, it's like, we're not reimagining the future. We have to start now, because these technologies are already existing. They're already affecting and impacting our social and economic lives. So do you think our education system is prepping the future generation, our youth, into that direction? And just to add to that, There are a number of stakeholders when it looks like, when we look at the digital transformation, it's impacting every industry right now. Yes, with telcos, we started with mobile money and mobile payments, now going to digital payments and all that. So looking onto the education system and also the stakeholders, what do you advise? Because I believe there are a number of stakeholders here that we can do so that we can all move in alignment. How do we collaborate? How do we make sure that we are, as we are in the technology age right now, how do we speak of our tomorrow, speak about the next hour? What do you think?
Without underestimating the value of the humanities, I think we need to think about the STEM programs, science, engineering, mathematics. We can't turn away from that. Those are key component. And the question is our education system across primary, elementary, higher education institution, are they really ready to train young people with key skills in STEM programs? I mean, that's a key skill that we need to be activating our young people, because you can't, you're not going to be able to survive in this world of technology if you're lacking some of those skills. They're key skills that we need to be focusing on. But then I'm not so sure whether our education system is ready to invest so much into STEM programs, which are very key. I don't know. Are they ready to do that? Do we have young people who have those? If we do, can we learn from those experiences in terms of trying to develop different kind of strategy? Coming to the second question, or part two of your question, I think it's a question of how do we develop a framework that is multi-stakeholder framework that can bring all these different kind of stakeholders together. Private sector, public sector, how do we manage that framework? And at what point should be, the discussion should be at what point? This level, or to even higher level? So I think that's where I think the next move should be, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ntimi. I will come back to you because it's an interesting part of this discussion, looking at the youth and the future. To you, Abdi? Yes. So I know you come from Chief of Customer Officer, right? Yes, so from apps. Oh, great. I like that because there's one CEO say that he don't want to be called a chief CEO as executive, but he's doing customers. Yes. So will these technologies create flexible and customer-oriented productive end processes, like with the new technologies future we're looking at?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And, as ABSA, we've been very interested in this field of innovation, working with startups, working with the ecosystem as a whole for a long time, both at the group level in South Africa, but also in the different countries. I remember a few years ago, I was working in Kenya when the Global Entrepreneurship Summit was held there and President Obama visited. And I remember ABSA played a very big role in that event as well. And in the time that I've been here in Tanzania, we've done quite a bit in the startup ecosystem. And one of the interesting innovations, just a recent example, which Sam, who is there with his team, did, is to transform the way we do the queuing system in the branch using WhatsApp. So it's about connecting the dots. There is no new innovation there. WhatsApp has always been there. We've always used this ticketing system where you pick something from the door, and we decided to use WhatsApp and the phone system in a way that is totally paperless. And the firm that is doing it for us is Tanzanian firm, young people born, educated in this country. And we are likely to roll that solution out to the whole of Africa for ABSA. So it's something that interests me very much. And when John was saying, it's an exciting time for Africa, I could really feel that. It's an exciting time. We're at a position where, it's a tipping point where the amount of change that is happening in the ecosystem is reaching that point where it will have real impact, not just in the financial system. And I know we are biased, me and Azampay, Firaz, and others who are in the payments ecosystem. It's not just payments. This innovation and development is far wider, and it's happening in agriculture. It's happening in the medical field. You know, doctors are now using more technology, AI-enabled decision-making by doctors that reduces the error rates. And I saw a solution in Nigeria called Cardiopad or something like that, where they remotely diagnose, you know, cardiological issues in the medical field. So it's happening all over. There is a young person in Nigeria who started this thing called Refugees First, which is an app that allows refugees all over the world to register and track their families who are lost in the world and be able to find them, etc. So the fintech and the payment side, of course, is a very, very important one, because the growth in Africa in the coming few years will be driven by trade, by economic growth. And without fintech innovation, it becomes very difficult. And that's where really we come in. And it's a partnership across the board between established financial players like ABSA, and we've been there for a long time, but we can't do it alone. You know, we have legacy systems. We've invested in what you call core banking systems, etc. But the new players like Azampay and others come in at another layer. And I really like the way Firaz actually gave that pyramid in terms of how it sits on top of how it's stacked, because unless you address each of those from an innovation perspective, it becomes very difficult. And that's why I really love this panel, because this panel is a reflection of how many people need to work together for innovation to work. You know, Tom Peters said, you can invent alone, but you can never innovate alone. Innovation is a team effort, and it's something that, you know, we really have to do together. So I feel strongly about it. It's a personal passion for me, and I feel that Africa is at a point where we are really getting into exciting territory.
Oh, thank you so much, Abdi. I just love what you said, and coming from the banking industry, like you're the incumbent players when it comes to financial services provision. And I want to hear from your own perspective as a customer. Right now, there are a lot of products in terms of promoting financial inclusion. There are a lot of microservices coming on board in terms of providing loans, credit, and all that. So my question will be, like, speaking like from the, because I know you serve customers, so I want you to speak on behalf of customers who are supposed to adopt to these new technologies when it comes to financial services provision, because that's what's I usually say, like, our social and economic lives impacts our financial position in the society. So what do you think will drive adoption? What needs to be done to drive adoption of new technologies, especially to the users or end users of all these financial, when it comes to financial services?
Yeah. So that goes to the whole issue of financial inclusion. Unfortunately for us in Tanzania, it's one of the few countries that actually has a framework, an established framework driven by the central bank, monitored by the central bank, that tracks how well we are doing on that journey of financial inclusion. Now, financial inclusion is about how many banking products or financial services people in the population enjoy, and it's tracked as a percentage. When you include payment services and all the mobile solutions, the percentages are high, in the high 50s. However, when you dig deeper into that and you say how widespread is the use of financial products such as loans, deposit products, investment products, insurance products, etc., the percentage for Tanzania, like many other African countries, is still low. And that is what we have to drive together. What are the drivers? Number one is about the quality of the product. You know, you can sell all you want, but if the client doesn't feel there is value for them, even at that grassroots level, then you have a problem. So good quality products. The other one is access, which is the digital access, the innovation in digital, that you allow the customer to access it through their mobile, through USSD for people who have the feature phones, etc. So make sure access is widespread. There is also awareness and cultural issues that you have to deal with. And I think example was given of these customers who had to be trained, retrained. But at the end of the day, once people cross that line into a digital resident, it becomes much easier to deal with them and add more products, over time. Pricing and affordability is another critical one that as a banking sector, we are continue, to work on, so that you are continuously expanding the field. But the other one is the partnership. The bank will not be able to do everything, but we need to allow for a plug-in kind of system where a lot of other players and innovators like people in this room can make their products and then plug in. And in that way, you cover a lot more customers. Recently we launched as ABSA a product with Tigo. I saw there is a representative of Tigo in the room, where we are doing those micro lendings. From September we've started, and we are already in the thousands in terms of customers that we are reaching through that product. It's digital, it's low cost, and it allows people who have never been exposed to ABSA before to access some of the funds that are available. So it's a journey and it continues.
Brilliant, brilliant. I love the answer, really. And it's kind of bringing the whole collaboration and participation, partnerships into play in the industry. So my next speaker, Ajay, I know you play a big role when it comes to fintech startups and various startups accelerator. I think from everything that has been shared from the research and development, from policymakers, to the incubate like ABSA, into the whole digital ecosystem. So my question would be, how will the development of new technologies and innovation affect consumers in the future? Please share your perspective in terms of your experience in startup and accelerator programs.
Sure. And before that, I would like to make a comment. How many of you in the room watched Marvel movies? When they reimagine the Western world, they talk about apocalypse, they talk about zombies. When they reimagine Africa, they saw Wakanda. And to that point, what John made, when there is no legacy, you can actually create something. You don't have the baggage. And that applies to a place where either infrastructure doesn't exist. And likewise for youth as well, I guess you no longer required to go and do a 4-year degree or a master's or whatever. You skill yourself to fill gaps that exist out there that make you employable. And probably if you're looking at building something, to build it today, you need to have skills that are relevant, not just today. But one of the points which I saw on the slide, if you're talking of Africa 2040, you're talking of 14 mega cities. So again, what John said, I guess the future is now. If you want to be there and you want to see what 2040 looks like, you got to be here in 2021 and you build for that. Without that, 2040 is probably going to become 2060, 2080, and it just continues. And there's going to be no development. Likewise, I also go on to another point which John made, which was around USSD. India, for the longest time, where I come from, for the longest time was looked upon as the back office of the world. There was a lot of offshoring done. There was a lot of software development done. But today, the biggest export of technology, which is expected, and this is turning out to be kind of a fintech conference, because again, I'm going on to a fintech area. The biggest software export touted to go out of India is UPI, which is the Unified Payment Interface, which was not built by a startup. The policy and the product was built by the government. So when government gets involved, not just in policy making, but also building products, the acceptability by itself kind of goes up several notches. And when you're kind of breaking barriers or when you're enabling access, it kind of makes it even more bigger. So coming to the question now, because I was thinking about the Wakanda point for a while and I had to make it, but coming to your question, and this again, I mean, I would kind of lean on to some of the points that earlier speakers made. I guess the first, the keynote which Firas made and the panel which ran, I think enterprise amongst everyone government, yes, academia, yes. Enterprise has a massive role to play in reshaping future of any economy, because guess what? Anyways, it is enterprise which drives the economic engine. But at the same time, enterprise which with a growth mindset, or which thinks innovation first, or thinks future first, I think those are the ones which are not only going to do good for themselves, but around them there's a whole new ecosystem that's going to develop, and it's in general going to make the overall economy think innovation first. Because yes, I mean, like the point that Jumani made, I mean, the Boda Boda economy might be a 290 billion shilling economy. Fine, great. Yes, there are a lot of people getting employed. But when you're talking of a population explosion of the sort that exists, enterprises of today can never fulfill the kind of graduates, postgraduates that come out of the system. You got to kind of support enterprise of the future, either by, so I mean, Azam Pay is a great example again, right? I mean, as a CPG company, to think in that direction. I mean, you're talking distribution, you're talking so many things, but on top of that, to build a rail of, say, fintech or payments, it's probably, it was not thought of maybe 50 years back or 30 years back, but today those are the enterprises of the future which are thinking in a very different tangent from what their core business is, but still they stitch it back to their core business. But in doing so, they're not only kind of enabling the existing customers, partners, whatnot, but creating altogether new businesses, probably creating those micro entrepreneurs. There are so many other things or other directions that such enterprises can take. And in that way, the impact that gets created, or economic development that gets created, is far more wider than any traditional enterprise. Coming to point like accelerators and startups, I guess if you went back 5 years, there were a lot of enterprises that were thinking of a startup accelerator or an innovation lab as something which looked fancy and cool, like a Google office. They would put in the yellow, blue, green, red, whatnot, but they would not really be able to add value to any startup because the enterprises themselves are not prepared. But today, if you look at many of them across the world who are creating these open innovation programs, accelerators, whatnot, it is not about creating a 5,000 square feet space. It is kind of getting more organized within the enterprise, the siloed data, bringing it together, creating probably structures on top of which you can actually plug and play. Creating that architecture, creating that framework is not easy. I mean, even like when someone spoke about NMB, probably it took them a couple of years to kind of roll out a sandbox. But it requires not just having a feeling of fear of missing out, but more importantly, putting the right kind of resources in place to kind of build something right, which actually is usable. Because you build an infrastructure which no one can use, there's no point. And it's just like civic infrastructure. A lot of times projects kind of get rolled out, things get built, but which no one is going to use. I mean, that's just taxpayers' money kind of going to the drain, to the dogs, wherever. And similarly, if you're talking of a technology first world and you're building an infrastructure, build something which people can plug and play into. I think a lot of enterprises which are doing accelerators today, digital innovation labs today, they probably might be taking a little bit more time because it's not a marketing spend, but they have to get the right internal resources in place and build something which genuinely, if there is someone outside who is a smart kid off the streets building something, can plug into and create value. And in that way, it's a win-win for everyone. So I think enterprise is very, very critical in this overall scheme of things. When we talk of startups, we talk of innovation, we talk of economic engine, and it can be done in multiple ways. But having the right set of, it's not a function of money, it's not a function of even time, it's a function of getting the right people in order and people in place. Once you do that, you can kind of pull things out of it, and that will create long-term value for everyone.
Thank you so much, Ajay. So in summary, what I'm getting from the panel in the first set of questions is that from education to skill development, there's a role to be played there by various stakeholders in the education system. From startups ecosystem, there's a lot of role that needs to be played there. And I believe in the country, a lot has been done with the start of TSA and all the incubators and hubs that are doing in the country today. From policymaker, the government, development partners, there's a huge role that needs to be played there. And from incumbent companies that have already doing a lot of things, and most of these things are being done traditionally. So how do we now move to the digital age and making sure that all stakeholders are playing their part in terms of moving the innovation space forward in Tanzania. So just to close up and to round up, my last question that will go to all the panelists will be based on the topic on social and economic impact when it comes to new technologies. Like on top of mind, there are like 5 technologies that I'm really looking that will have direct impact to my grandmother, to my cousin who is in the village, to my brother who is just coming from university, and they're looking at what do I do next? For me, it's blockchain, AI. I like what Dr. Kamara said. They're looking out to bring these skills to 305. That's a huge impact to a country. So looking at these new technologies, what's your take? What do you think can be done based on the role you are playing today in the market? What do you think can be done? What do you think should be the direction? Just give us an insight of what you think. Maybe we can start from Dr.
Thank you. Sorry. I think we need champions, people who can take a lead. Champions who can champion this kind of conversation, number one, but also champion who can champion the enactment of programs and strategies in place. Because we often like talking, but when it comes to putting things into practice is a problem. So we need champions who really are willing to, to take up these issues, whether to the government or to, to the different kind of conversation, not just a simple conversation, very critical conversation. But also we need to, I can't emphasize enough the issue of partnership. I think we are seated here, and I would think, while I was thinking like an academic, while I was seated here, I was thinking, I need to engage in Jumanne, we need to write a paper. What kind of, how do we bring different kind of partners together to drive this agenda? So I think we need to come up with something, whether it's a brief, policy brief or working paper, I don't know. But I think we need that kind of engagement from different kind of sectors, different kind of stakeholders, and agree what is it that we want to get out of it. I think that would be critical.
Just to add to my question, so from the education sector, because you're a stakeholder in all this, what do you think as the, because you say like we need champions. So I want you to talk about the champions in the education sector. Like, what do you think needs to be done? Yeah.
Universities need to change as well.
Yes.
Otherwise it was made irrelevant. They are very much strong, very much resistant institution. It's like turning a grave. They don't want to change, but they need to change in terms of curriculum, in terms of programs, in terms of extracurricular programs. How do we train our graduates? Are they ready? When they go out there, do they have necessary skills? So I think also institutions, actually not only university, across the system, we need to change. How do we train our students, our learners? But what kind of environment are we creating for them? Is it conducive? So also issue of digital divide, are we looking at it? Who's going to be left out? So we also need to look at those issues.
I think there should be more of internship programs, and companies should really open up for that. Thank you so much, Dr. Ntimi. Yes, Ajay, so let's hear from you.
In terms of what technology, or?
I like the new technologies and adoption and how they're going to have social and economic impact in terms of accelerators, startups, and all that. I know in Tanzania, TSA is doing a lot in that direction. And I know there are a lot of stakeholders from outside the country that are trying to support in terms of knowledge, skills, business management and all that. So what do you think the new technologies adoption to the social and economic part of a typical Tanzanian? Yeah.
Sure. So I think again, going to the point that Adenian Labs made, I think, so last year we did a fairly large summit focus on AI as a vertical. And we did a fair bit of research into that. And my colleague Jagrati, who's there, I think she can mingle around, meet people. But if you look at Fortune 500 companies, 2030, it is said that amongst all Fortune 500 companies, at least 70% of all business functions are going to be driven by AI. And you're left with like 9 years for that. And I don't think the adoption of AI is that deep in many organizations, because you need to kind of really be prepared. Not just like I said within the organization, but also the availability of talent. So building industry-ready talent is a massive opportunity, because when we talk of population explosion and what some of the points that Jumane was making, I mean, say Food Sasa or whatever, I mean, all of these companies, a lot of this is going to be based or built on top of what the consumer behavior is like. And just rolling out, I mean, everyone is thinking of just rolling out apps or websites and whatnot, but if you do not have the infrastructure, or if you do not have the engineering capability to kind of mine the kind of data that comes out and build intelligence layers on top of it, only that is going to allow you to kind of cater to those customers, that audience, with intelligent products, right? So that is one. Second, if you look at the whole innovation economy, I think it's more of a collaboration economy rather than a competitive economy. So one needs to, because at the end of the day, whoever runs innovation programs, incubators, accelerators, VCs, end of the day, it's a person who runs it, person or a team of people. And everyone brings very, very unique skill sets as individuals. No two people are alike. No two people think alike. No two people have the same network of people. So the more collaboration that is possible, and I would like to say thank you to Jumane, because it was fairly last minute that he got me onto this panel as well. And Sahara has been a good friend and partner with whom we have been looking at working together in different ways. I think that is the kind of mindset which talks about growth mindset, right? Rather than looking at someone as threat, competition, whatever. I mean, in a lot of emerging markets, I mean, even in India, it's the same. Everyone is competing neck and neck with everyone, rather than thinking that how can two people come together and create kind of joint value. How can you kind of create a stronger collaboration or partnership which will allow you to address different challenges? So I think that's when it comes to capacity of innovation hubs, incubators, accelerators, I think there is a huge opportunity to have a strong, cohesive kind of an ecosystem, a peer network where each one kind of feeds off the other, because the market is big enough. If you talk of just Tanzania, you're talking 60 million people. You talk of East Africa, you're talking 300 million people. You look at the continent, you're talking 1 billion plus people. So the opportunity is fairly large. So I think my two takeaways would be, one, how AI can define or help reimagine the future in several ways, both from an economic standpoint and from social. Because if you look at a lot of programs that IBM and Microsoft are funding in AI, whether it is got to do with displaced people, the refugees, climate action, a lot of it is Africa-centric. And the second one would be, how can we collaborate more as an ecosystem to create joint economic value? So,
thank you so much, Jay. I really love that. And I think that's a call also for a lot of mentorships and coaching to startups and small business that really want to scale. Since there's partnership, collaboration coming inside that. Thank you so much for that. Coming to Annette. So what do you think? Like new technologies, social impacts from regulatory policy frameworks and guidelines. What do you think the stakeholders in that area can do or to facilitate the adoption and this future that we're talking about?
Thank you. Yes, I was gonna go put my policy and regulatory hat in this topic or this question. And I think I agree with the previous panelists on what they have said needs to be done. And I think from the policy and regulatory, there are already a number of things that are being done. We have heard this morning about regulators looking at setting up regulatory sandboxes to allow innovation to be tested in controlled environment. We've heard about discussion around the development of the digital economy framework. So these are good things that are happening. But what I would like to add as we think about moving into the digital economy, we should remember a number of things that include digital literacy, because I think we live in an age whereby probably we talk to people who are like us. So we assume that everybody is at the same level as us, but I'm sure all of us have relatives or family members or people we know that are behind, like way far behind in this conversation. So how do we bring them up? And as we design different products and, I'm not audible? Huh? Okay, so let me put up. Can you hear me now? Okay, yeah. So as we design these products and solution to ensure that nobody is left behind. So how do we emphasize on training or empowering different individuals with digital skills for them to be able to engage equally? But the other element that I would like to emphasize, and I think we had some people from the government here, is around the consumer protection related issue. So as data, a lot of information is migrating into the digital space. And I think it's important we think about privacy and data protection and having the legal framework around that. Because as transaction, let's say, if we think of e-commerce, most of us, when we go to the market, you buy, you get your product right there and then. But now, as these transactions are moving into the digital space, there's issue of trust. If there is no any legal framework, me as a consumer, it becomes difficult to adopt that specific type of innovation because I'm not exactly sure, will I get something that I expect to get? And if it's not matching what I had expected, either in terms of quality or whatnot, what is there to protect me? Can I return it? Can I report this person somewhere? So all these things that I think it should be part of the conversation. It shouldn't happen in isolation. So as innovators out there are building this solution, what is happening from the legal and regulatory framework to ensure that adoption happens smoothly and consumers are actually protected? Because if you are following the news, all of us have been hearing about Facebook and data abuse and all of that. So we have already been shown what could possibly go wrong. So how do we prepare to ensure that as consumers adopt and engage in these digital spaces are protected? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annette. To you, Mr. Abdi.
Thank you very much. I think for me, I'll repeat the issue of partnership and collaboration without going into detail. That has been that point has really been made. And to thank Sahara, we've partnered with them. We've partnered with Startup Resio as well and many others. And I think that is a space you will see ABSA continuously participating in as we go forward. The other thing I just wanted to mention in closing is the point of how do we create value together? So it's not just about, and this is more a message for the startups and the young people who are coming up with all the ideas. There is us sitting with the client and sitting with real problems. And there is the startup community out there trying to work and get stuff done. How do we work together to deliver real value? Because it's not just the app is part of it, but working with us in a real situation to understand a real problem and come up with a solution. Uber have a wonderful app, but it's not just the app. It's the service model behind it, it's the data behind it, it's the fact that the car is always a few minutes away, as opposed to the guys, Zamani, we used to call them, he tells you Niko hapa kwa mataa, but he's in Ubungo. There is no way you can check on the map, etc. How do we work together in a way that delivers true value for the customer? I think the other thing is around regulation. And as I was saying, in Tanzania, certainly, and also in this region, the regulators and the policymakers has actually moved along with the innovation. If you look at the licensing processes from both the central banks, communication authorities, for some of the telco products, the payment products that are there, it's actually good. It's a reasonable regulation. During COVID, I remember at some point we were meeting the BOT almost every 2 weeks to discuss solutions at very senior level, director level, to say, how can we do this differently? And I've worked in many markets. I've never seen that anywhere, and it's truly impressive. So it's something that will be helpful, as we move forward as well. So how do we work together? How do we create real value for the customer? And the possibilities are unlimited, and we're very excited as ABSA about the way forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to all the panelists. I believe this discussion has opened up our minds to more questions, to progressive discussions, and most important, to execution of what is really what we're really looking forward in the future. I really want to thank all of you for your answers, for your comments. Thank you so much.
A huge round of applause. We can do better than that. Let's keep it going. One more round. Woo! Asante sana, Faith Pella, and the rest of the discussants about discussing the adoption of future and emerging technologies in Africa. I personally enjoyed the passion, the excitement that each person contributed from their significant spheres. Asante sana. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting time, we are down to the final sessions of the day. I would love to welcome again, Mr. Jumanne Mtambalike to lead our next activity. Karibu.
Wow. That has been exciting. Are you guys excited? So, Abdi, thank you so much. Beyond apps, how do we deliver value? Apps for this, apps for that, but how do we create those tangible results? Creating that unique value proposition is very, very crucial. So part of what I did during my thesis was to assess how corporate partner with startups in open APIs, some kind of technicals. And while a huge chunk of people think the reason why startups are not connected with banks and telco is for technical reasons, believe me, technical reason has nothing to do with that. Because most of the open APIs were open 4 or 5 years ago. Vodacom had theirs, NMB had theirs. There are multiple of them. But the key critical issues are 3. How do you address consumer satisfaction when you do that collaboration between startup and a bank or a telco? How do you come up with a business model that actually works? And how do you address regulators' concerns? Because those are the key issues that actually prevent startups and corporates to come up with strategic collaboration that ensure they deliver the value we're talking about. So there was a very exciting panel discussion, and I'm very humbled and honored to have all you guys here. As I said from the beginning, out of 1,200 people, we carefully picked you guys to attend our event for obvious reasons because of COVID-19. So I think it has been a very enlightening discussion. There are 3 important things. First, my family is in the room, so we should shout for them. Yeah. So my father, my mother, my mom, they're all here. Yeah. So my wife, yeah. So, and they've been there for the past 6 years. Every year they make sure they attend this event for some reason. So I really appreciate and love you guys. Yeah, so for some reason they want to see you, so please stand up. Dad, mom, wife, okay, and everybody else. Okay, great. So the second thing, we are going to have a very exciting session in the afternoon. I think this will be one of the most amazing blockchain sessions ever. So when you talk blockchain in Tanzania, everyone interprets cryptocurrencies, but blockchain is beyond crypto. There's so many things you can do with blockchain technology, and it's one of the most promising technologies. So we're going to have Ms. Mesia Mongoka from TBL. She's going to give a practical case study on how TBL, they're adapting blockchain technology in their value chain. We are going to have Mr. Ramazani Sarija from CrossLink International. Is going to talk about how blockchain technology is used to link ports using the IBM Maersk TradeLens technology. We are going to have Ms. Irene. She's going to tell us about the Africa Blockchain Center and what they're looking to achieve. So we're going to have a very exciting conversation this afternoon about blockchain technology and its potential. And the session is going to be co-hosted by Isa Muhammad Ali, the lead of Tanzania AI Lab. It's a community of people who are passionate about artificial intelligence. Yes, artificial intelligence in Tanzania. And we've published with them a couple of AI reports. So it's a very exciting guy. So we are looking forward for a very exciting conversation immediately after lunch. You can come back here at 2 p.m. if you want to learn more about blockchain technologies and the opportunity that's going to come from that sector. Another thing which is very, very important, We talked about partnerships and collaboration. So we are looking forward to close some MOUs this week. Daniel Lab, Africa Blockchain Center, Startup Review. So a lot of partnerships are going to be formed this week. And they are all looking into how can we push technology and digital transformation. Another thing which is extremely important, there's a guy who has been sitting quietly wearing a cap on my right-hand side. And I'm very sure some of you have been asking yourself, what is that guy doing? Is he taking names of noisemakers? So that guy is Mehdi Jumanne. He's not my son. Mehdi Jumanne is a very reputed and respected artist. He does something called live drawing, caricature. And out of more than 500 artists across the world, he was selected to do the live drawing of President Macron 2 weeks ago. And Mehdi is a Tanzanian. So I asked Mehdi a few weeks ago, like, okay, how does this French guy know about you? Because we met in Paris and then in Montpellier, and I was asking him like, sisi nyumbani nataka tukujui, sasa umekujuaje hawa Wafaransa? And then all of a sudden you are drawing cartoons of Macron when he's speaking. And the guy was like, not so many people in Tanzania understand the concept of live drawing and caricature, and they don't even use it in events. So we got into a partnership, me and Mehdi. I told him, I'm gonna take stake in every event he's gonna be invited after this to do caricature. So he's actually has been drawing our conversation from the morning up to right now. And you're going to see all those cartoons. And I don't want to ruin the fun. There's a very cool cartoon about a certain person. You might want to pay for that. Yeah, so it's going to be very exciting to see Mehdi's slides. And it's going to happen immediately after this last session. So again, it has been a very exciting dialogue. Please, 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 again, don't miss the afternoon session. You really want to know what's the blockchain technology and what potential does it have in this country and Africa at large. Just to wrap up, we are completely running out of time. We are supposed to do a leadership dialogue, just to get a bit of perspective from the audience. And I'd like to call on stage Mr. Zaoro. We're just going to stand. There's no need to sit on the chair. And the reason I'm calling Zaoro, because he's a CEO of Tanzania Startup Association. And I don't want to be put on a hot seat on Twitter because there was no startup. They say they're talking about a startup, but we are not there. So I make sure Zaoro is here to talk about the startups, because all of a sudden you must see yourself trending.
This guy knows how to manage politics.
Yeah, so we are going to allow 5 feedback from leaders who haven't spoken today. So I know there's a lot of leaders in this room. Any of the leaders, if you want to give your own feedback or reflection from the morning up to right now, you're welcome. Just raise your hand and share your opinion or feedback.
Then I should be the first one, right?
Yeah, Karibu.
Thank you for this honor, by the way. You know, first thing first, I really appreciate the fact that your parents are here. Next time, I think I should bring mine, because one of the biggest challenges working in innovation in startups is your parents think you don't have a job.
You don't have a real job.
You don't have a real job. You know, back then when I was starting in this entrepreneurship innovation, trying to explain all these seemingly complex issues to my father, I was like, I understand, son, you're doing a good job, but wait, life has to happen. When are you gonna get a job? Like, this is a job. No. What about the real job? So I think I should bring my parents next time so they can see that I have a job. You did a good job. Yeah. So one quick thing I share personally with Jumanne is we were all born in Kariakoo. In a market. You know, I know for a lot of you, when you were maybe late or 3 years old, you start, you know, kujitambua. You go out of your home and you see some few neighbors, 3 around. To me, when I was 3 years old, I go out of my house, I see 10,000 people. That explains why I've ended up in innovation, because you need to take risk every day. You need to, have a courage to go. For me, when I was 4 years old, going to kindergarten, a journey of 0.5 kilometer, but I passed by 5,000 people, conmen, everybody trying to steal my bag, all that. So it's always interesting working with Jumanne, because I think he understands where we are coming from. Capturing from what has been spoken this morning, it has been a very fruitful conversation, and I really appreciate all the speakers. I want to say something little about Firas. I can listen to this guy all day. He knows his stuff, right? So at some point when we wanted to host a meeting with the Ministry of ICT, back then, Honorable Ndugulile, shout out to him. He has been very helpful before he was removed. When we wanted to host a meeting, so TSA, as you know, is a membership-based organization, right? So we had to ask our members, what do they want as a TSA to present to the minister, that these are our pinpoints, what should be addressed, etc., etc. So we were sending out forms for people to fill in their opinions and what are their problems, what do they think should be a solution. Most startups were sending 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines. This is the problem, this is a solution, this is a problem, this is a solution. Then, and my team, and I was talking to my team, I was telling like, hey guys, you remember that guy from Azampay? I see him on LinkedIn now often. I think he has very good points. Send him the link, and so we can hear his opinion. And the guy was like, sir, all these startups are sending 1 line, 2 lines. And that guy, I assume he runs a very big company, must be very busy. I wonder if we will even get a reply. So just send it. They sent. This guy did not even take 24 hours to get back to us with 2 pages. Like long list, this, and the whole made a lot of sense. So I really appreciate your insights, but also for taking time to contribute to the ecosystem. Thank you so much. So capturing what have been spoken today, there are a lot of issues, mind-boggling, I must say. But to add my few cents, I think we all talk about jobs here. Jumanne highlighted that how many youth are coming to workforce. And something I was just reading last week, and I came about very interesting facts. Now, I'm a person who also loves numbers somehow. According to US Bureau of Labor, they say the shortage on software engineers, tech people, you understand this, is almost close to 40 million people globally. Wow. 40 million people, there's a shortage. One of the things we complain a lot is we train a lot of accountants, a lot of marketers, there's not enough jobs for them. Then here we have a field where actually there's a shortage. We just have to fill it. But nobody wants to go out and fill that, because that's, to me, that's the biggest opportunity. So there's a shortage of 40 million people of these gigs needed somewhere. That's globally. You look at a country like Nordic, they're one of the biggest and shortest, their gap is a bit bigger. Sweden alone has a shortage of 70,000 engineers. You go to US, they say the shortages are around 1.4 million a year, and the colleges in US churn out at least 400 annually, and there's a gap of 1 million. But,
yeah, so there's something really interesting. There's something really interesting about that. So the so-called the kings, I don't know if you have heard about the kings. So Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, and Egypt, the king of the tech and innovation in Africa, they have only, among the things they have in common, one of them is the number of engineers. So Lagos alone has 120K engineers. That's the amount of techies they have in Lagos, enough to develop a solution or application for you. Cape Town, I think 80K, and Nairobi is around 60K. I don't know if we've done a survey for Darcelam, how many technical engineers we have to support our local startups.
Okay, that will be our next research for TSA. So a lot of insight which have been shared today have been that helpful. So you see that the actual demand to develop this skill set in the country, and the jobs are just out there. Since COVID, I've been going a lot to Zanzibar, and every time I'm going there, I just meet some people from US, some people from Europe who live in Zanzibar right now and work back home. So they just log in online and work and still get their pay and live here. So it's an opportunity for our youth, opportunity for government to train massive army of technical engineers who actually can get job anywhere. And that's how the future reemerge. You don't have to work here in Darcelam or to be employed with a company which is here or in Arusha to actually have a job. You can be here and still working for multinational somewhere in Silicon Valley. That's what is so exciting about the future.
Wow, thank you so much, Zaoro. So this has been so good, and that's why I called him on stage. He's a political technologist. He does more politics than me. Yeah, so I'm very happy about what you've been saying, and guys, we are really running out of time. I will give 2 chances to comment, one from a lady and the other one from a gent, just to wrap up the day based on the reflection of the day. So I'll start with the chairman of TSA, and then I'll finish with my lovely sister from Digital Opportunity Trust.
Thank you very much. We in TSA believe in being a gentleman. So may I request the lady to start first, and then I will continue.
You know, an empowered lady would decline. But thank you so much, because it actually is about gender. So what are the odds? So I'm Dana Nisima, and I'm from Digital Opportunity Trust, DOT. And the future, it's sort of like making a wish. If there's any future to be reimagined, I would wish it to be gender sensitive. Because men and women are going to experience this future differently. There's already existent, entrenched barriers, systemic barriers that are not equipping men and women the same way to take this future. Now, Jumanne, you are a dad to beautiful daughter, Alia. So I'm hoping that the future is one that Alia also steps up as the CEO of a tech company and gives a speech, right? But she also co-creates, and you know, all these things that we're speaking about, AI and all that. We're in a conference last week, but we see how much has been designed without a gender lens, you know, such as whether it's the belt, that the car seat, or everything, and how it's designed with this, without this lens, and comes to affect us and our communities. It's one of the things that whoever is co-creating or investing in the space, we need to be intentional about this. Otherwise, it's going to still leave people behind. Annette made beautiful comments around when we're even speaking about all these latest technologies. We need not to forget that there are those who are yet to be connected. Wanatumia vitochi, right? So the same way I would say that let's not leave people behind. Also, let's not leave our gender hats off. Let's be inclusive.
Thank you very much, Jumanne and the team. Perhaps I should stand. My name is Paul Makanza. I have the fortunate task of being the chairman of Tanzania Startup Association. How I was chosen, I do not know, to be honest. You know, I just ended up in this role, but I'm loving it. Very, very excited. Jumanne called me last week or a couple of weeks ago, asking me to be on the panel today. And I said, Jumanne, please excuse me. I don't think I deserve to be on the panel amongst all the other panelists today. And everybody who spoke today actually proved me right. Okay, so I want to congratulate all of them. Very exciting. I learned a lot. But I want just to pick on 4 points which caught my attention. The first one, technology is all about innovation, imagining the impossible and making it possible. And I think what we miss in this audience today are children. Because when I listen to everybody speak today, we seem to be constrained by our education, our experiences, and so on. So we are not really flowing like children who ask stupid questions, but when you think about it, you may be amazed at the possibilities. Okay, it stretches the imagination. So that's point number 1, and I don't know how, the point I want to make is, free-flowing, starting from a blank piece of paper, really imagining the impossible, and then, as somebody said, working backwards to actually achieve what may have seemed impossible. Now, the other point I wanted to talk about, somebody talked about silos, competition, and so on. And I think what we need to begin to think about now is we can no longer compete for the same pie. I think we need to collaborate to grow the pie so we can share a bigger pie. We talked about the role of enterprises, and I see when I look at a lot of the big companies, forget about the smaller ones, you see a lot of IT managers or directors or chief IT officer. And I think for enterprises now, it's about time we moved, we thought about the role of a chief innovation officer. We need more chief innovation officers in our companies. And the last point I wanted to talk about is, you see, I find it, for lack of a better word, I don't know if we're missing something in our national strategy regarding how we can actually drive rapid economic development using technology and so on. So, for example, I look at, sorry, your name is Firaz. Firaz made a very good point. He talked about 2 issues about transparency and efficiency, yeah? And that, would actually drive down transaction costs and make things much cheaper. Now, you can imagine a company like, one of the big pain points we have as consumers, to do all these transactions we need to use data and so on. It costs money, and it's a pain point for most of us. And I was wondering, for example, if you've reduced, your transparent, you're efficient, transaction costs are down, how then do we actually share those efficiencies with consumers in order to reduce the cost of our data? So, for example, if you have a marketplace, why wouldn't Vodacom, for example, enter into some collaboration, a different business model with the marketplace owners so that the pricing is actually factored into on that end? They wipe out all the data prices, and everything looks free. That would actually drive demand. And that would have implications, multiplier effects to the rest of the economy, production, consumption, and so on. Those are the points I wanted to make. Thank you very much, Jumanne, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And because we are following protocol, Mr. Zauro, please, you can have a seat.
This is the reason I say I don't have a job. Now I'm kicked out of.
Yeah. Don't forget I'm your boss. Yeah. Okay, so it has been an honor to host all of you guys here. There's an activity happening. You can go to menti.com and enter that code, and then you can provide your feedback, your comment, because we can't get all the comments, but technology has a way to make sure we gather all these things. So we have a repertoire who has been capturing everything that you guys have been saying. And we are going to produce a report called Future Reimagined, based on your comment and your feedback and some other studies and research out there, thanks to our partner, Tobacco, to Miami University. Speaking about collaborations, Yeah. So again, Mehdi has asked for like 2 minutes. Oh, okay, great. Yes, so we are buying more time because Mehdi has like really an emergency and is coming. Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. No, I think I wanted to make this comment because of something that Diana spoke about, and also we were referring to and talking about AI. So this, I'm just pulling out some stuff from a report that we pushed out last year, and we'll be happy to share it with everyone. So talking of women in AI and talking about AI in particular, since 1990, the percentage of AI papers co-authored by at least one woman globally has not changed since 1990, which is like 30 years. Consider this: Google, IBM, Microsoft. Google has only 11% women who have published a paper. Microsoft, it is 11.95, and IBM is 15.66. It is that less. The third point, except for University of Washington, none of the top 35 institutions known for AI research have anything more than 25% papers which are published by women. So it is that as low as that. So and the reason why I think gender, race, religion, all of this has to be kept out is because for AI to kind of really have that kind of impact, unless and until it is kind of really inclusive, I think AI can never have the kind of desired impact that it is expected to have. So that's it.
Great. Thank you so much. So I also know there are some initiatives that are happening to support getting more women in tech. Shout out to She Calls for Change. Yeah, so last time I was working with them, we trained 400 girls across the country how to code in partnership with Universal Communication Service Access Fund. So you have your 400 girls who potentially might become engineers, deciding on which track of the career they choose. I don't know, Alia might become an engineer, but if she wants to become a doctor, she'll so disappoint me. Yeah, so again, but I'll try my level best. Another thing, there's some other initiatives like Apps and Girls, Lail Girls. I know Lobotech Labs, they're doing it intentional also for young girls. So there's some initiative here and there, and they're trying to do their level best. But the key word is what John said, intention. We need to be intentional about it. And because if you're intentional, you're going to put your key performance indicators, you're going to set standard on how you want to do it, you're going to form policies and strategies around it, and it goes beyond signing MOUs and having conversation. Then it becomes something more realistic. And Mehdi is back. And we are ready to see, these are not cartoons, these are smart cartoons. It's called caricature. How do you spell it? C-A-L-I? Okay, great. So I will call Mehdi on stage because some of the cartoons I might not be able to interpret them. And the idea is you to see the cartoons. So Asa, are we set? With, is it okay if I call them the cartoons? Oh, okay, great. Yeah, you might have another technical name for it. So we're waiting for them to project. So this is the first one. Can we get rid of the chairs, please, like in a minute so that people can see clearly, if you don't mind. Mehdi, hii ilikuwa inahusu nini? Tutatumia Kiswahili na Kiingereza sasa.
Hii katuni kwa sijasalimia jamani. Habari zenu? Mabiri wa bwana. Naitwa Mohamed Jumanne, kwa jina la kisanii naitwa Mehdi. Ni mchoraji vibonzo wa Tanzania, nachora katika media mbalimbali, international na local. Leo nimeandaa baadhi ya katuni zinazohusiana na debate ambayo ilikuwa inajadiliwa hapa. Hii katuni ilikuwa inaelezea jinsi gani watu wanavyotumia mitandao ya kijamii, internet, kupata kipato. Yes.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, okay. Firas, sorry, I was so selfish. but I'm very sure you had some viewers. But so the idea is, from the previous cartoon, what it was trying to show is how when young people possess technical skills, they can be able to convert those technical skills into cash. Did I get it right? I ran away from English classroom. I'm an engineer, so if my translation is bad, please tell me. Okay, and what about this one?
Okay. Hii katuni inaelezea jinsi gani ya manunuzi, watu wanavyotumia mitandao kufanya biashara, watu wanaendelea kutumia mitandao ya kijamii, internet. Kwa hiyo teknolojia imerahisisha biashara. Kwa hiyo kuna watu wengi wanaingiza kipato kupitia mitandao ya kijamii na internet.
Great. So again, the picture speaks of itself. I'm not sure if that is the Amazon drone, but ideally is you can actually, there's no need for you to go to actually access a service. You can use digital tool to pay for something remotely, and it can be also be able to deliver at your doorstep. Go to the next one. Oh, come on, come on. Good, good. Isa, you're writing me down. Can we see him very clear? He's coming. He is coming. There he is. Can we clap? Yeah, so I really liked this statement. I didn't know that Mehdi also had it. So the future is in your, it doesn't matter how old you are. The future is in your, yeah, so John, you should pay for this. Okay, great. Okay, great.
No, this is absolutely fantastic. And we will NFT your products on the global scale. The African Blockchain Center, we promise we will NFT you and we'll make you a global phenomenon. Thank you.
I'm just reminding him to remember the 10%. Collaboration. Okay, great. So let's move to the next one. So,
Yes.
oh, okay. Ingize ndani kidogo. Like, okay. Unaweza kang'ata ulimi bu. Okay, let me just wait and see what you do.
Hii nadhani inaeleweka, haina haja kutranslate ama nini. Inaelezea jinsi gani kuna challenge hapa nimesikia kuhusiana na mambo teknolojia. Kuna watu wanafanya biashara kupitia teknolojia, kwa hiyo wanakuwa wanapata challenge nyingi. Kwa hiyo kule ambako tunaelekea kwenye future, kwa nadhani mchoro unaeleweka. Sidhani kama unaweza nikaongea sana. Asante.
Great. I didn't get the memo. How many of this do we have? I can do this all day. 4 remain. Okay, great. This is the last one. Okay, great. Okay. So he's still working on other drawings. We will deliver them post the event, and we will include them in our report. I think that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Collaboration. Yeah, so again, thank you so much, Mehdi. And we intentionally did this because I was so frustrated when he told me he only does caricature outside Tanzania. He only do international and regional event, and he doesn't do it here. He has done only few events, and both events were organized by Europeans, not Tanzanians. So I wanted it to be done and adapted by Tanzanian events so that we can create more Medis, so that they can draw more presidents across the world. Yeah, so that's a bigger picture. So thank you so much, Mehdi. I really appreciate.
Thank you so much.
Karibu sana. Yeah, so that being said, we are so much outside time, and I know some people really appreciate. I know you had meetings and you've stayed until the end. So again, I really appreciate for your time. I really appreciate for insight you've shared with us. Again, Sahara Sparks 2021, Future Imagined. Mtaka mjibu kazi endeleeni. Maana tumeclaim. Yeah, so again, Sahara Sparks 2021. Now, oh, okay. They've just updated and upgraded our theme. So Sahara Sparks 2021, Future Imagined now. Okay, wow, that's good. Yeah, so thank you so much, guys. And lunch is served. Adam? So the lunch is served. You have your coupons. You can go and have your lunch. Please, 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 please be back here at 1400 sharp for the blockchain workshop. Interesting practical cases about how corporates are adapting blockchain in Tanzania and what Africa Blockchain Center is coming to do to Tanzania. Developers, techies, geeks, these guys are coming to create more opportunities for you guys. Great. So again, she's good. I was about to close this as a person who looked like she's going to do the closing remarks, but I've just been informed as a person who's supposed to do closing remarks. It has always been like this. And if you come in Sahara Sparks 2017 and 2018, we literally were putting hip hop songs during the event. And then we were told that's not good. Yeah, so I would like to call Dr. Amos Nungu to give the closing remarks. Okay. Great. As been told, there's one more video you guys need to see before you leave, because it will be very embarrassing if you came to this event and you don't know what is Silicon DAR. So we are going to play the Silicon DAR video as we get Dr. Nungu to close this session. So please play the Silicon DAR video.
Darcelam is among the fastest growing cities in the world. Darcelam is among the fastest growing cities in the world. We will have more than 10 million inhabitants. The city is expected to reach megacity status by 2030. Something interesting is This happening in month, the we will have Tanzania's more than financial 10 million capital. inhabitants living in the city. A part of the road heading to the historical city of Something Bagamoyo interesting is becoming is the happening in the technological Tanzania's district financial of the capital. city. The district is A the part home of the of road all heading major to the public tech historical city of offices, Bagamoyo is telecom becoming the operators, technological district of the city. The district is the home of all major public tech offices, telecom operators, innovation hubs, financial institutions, research agencies, College of Information Technology, financial institutions, University of Darcelam, research agencies, and tech-driven businesses, and the College of Information Technology of University of Darcelam. The district is startup companies and tech-driven businesses are moving to the area. The future is here. Organically, the district is championing Tanzania's efforts towards digital transformation and the fourth industrial revolution, creating a generation of new businesses and equipping youth with future skills. Join us and be part of the exciting journey by helping to promote, invest, and accelerate the growth of the district, the growth of Silicon DAR. You can follow the movement via www.silicondar.org.
Who among you knew about Silicon DAR before today? Oh, okay, so there's some people who didn't knew about it. So that is our Silicon Valley. We don't have money to build toy cities, so we are capitalizing on what we have. Yeah, so that being said, I would like to welcome Dr. Amos Nungu to officially close our event.
Among others, I've learned one thing today. Kizazi cha sasa sisi tufanyeje? Kamara Jumani said, I mean, there is a new generation of somebody who are online. They're just asking, what shall we do? So they are waiting, either for the systems or for those in the offices to make decisions for them to act. Otherwise, it is a workforce which is waiting for somewhere. So based on that one, the discussion we had today is a starting of the whole week event. I think it is a catalyst that, I mean, we are obliged to discuss critically. And I think we've started because the discussion was very live. And I think the company the people behind the event did a thorough job in selecting the people in this room to set the tone. For those who are waiting in the social media, sasa sisi tufanyeje? Yeah, so once again, I say thank you for everybody being part of this session to initiate the week-long event. And I look forward for fruitful discussions, engagement, providing solutions. And as I said, the government is ready to partner, to collaborate, to cooperate, but as well as to learn. We don't know everything, but we are obliged to provide safety for the people, including you here. So as parties, you are disruptors. At the same time, we have to negotiate that, I mean, yes, to this extent. So if we go through, bear with that, but our intentions is to make sure that, I mean, we are part of that future which we are discussing it now. Asanteni sana, na I wish you fruitful discussion in the evening and the whole week. Asanteni.
Sawa, wageni wetu watatangulia kutoka hapa, naambiwa nifuate protocol kwenda kwenye lunch, alafu baada ya hapo Innovators tunajua tutaka tupite madirishani kwenda nje. It's pretty much okay. Thank you so much guys, and please bon appetite.